Okay. Good evening, Hermosa Beach. I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting, April 1st, 2025, of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Resource Advisory Commission meeting. I hope everybody had some fun April Fool's pranks. None were played on me unless somebody's got one. Guess not. With that said, I would love to invite Brian Souza to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Now we'll move on to roll call.
Commissioner Maroney.
Here.
Commissioner Horowitz.
Here.
Commissioner Ellman.
Here.
Vice Chair Pizer-Maines.
Here.
Chair Lang.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Hi. Awesome. Do we have any announcements from the commissioners? No. Lisa?
Okay, I have the upcoming city events presentation that will queue up here. Okay, so in the month of April, the upcoming permitted special events through the Special Event Permit Program are the Redondo Union High School volleyball matches, April 3rd, 15th, and the 21st. The Sidewalk Sale, which is on April 5th through the 6th. The AAU Southern Pacific Grand Prix Series on April 6th, 13th, and the 27th. Beach tennis tournaments on April 11th through the 13th. The California Beach Volleyball Association on April 12th, Easter Sunrise Mass on April 20th, the Interscholastic Beach Volleyball League Tournament Series on April 20th as well, the Surfers Walk of Fame Weekend Kickoff Event on April 25th, and Spider Surf Fest following the induction ceremony on April 26th, and the Riviera Cantina South Bay Surf Series, which was formerly the Waterman South Bay Surf Series, but this is their new presenting sponsor. And that concludes the upcoming permitted events, so we can go ahead and go to the next slide. City-hosted events, we have our 2025 Surfers Walk of Fame induction ceremony on the 26th at 11 a.m. on Pier Plaza. Next slide. We have our April excursion taking place on the 16th, and it's going to be to the Miniature Horse Sanctuary with wine tasting. And next slide. This slide here is our upcoming theater performances in the Community Theater and the Second Story Theater. For more information on each of these, you can go to hermosabeach.gov/theater on how to get tickets and for more details on each performance. And that concludes the upcoming city events presentation.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving on to Community Resource Director report, please.
Okay. All right, so my report is brief this evening since we have a lot of updates through the items on our agenda. And the main thing that we have to report this evening, if we can go ahead and go to the next slide, is update on City Council's direction on items that were previously on the Commission's agenda. So first being the naming subcommittee that we had brought to the Commission, their recommendation at our last meeting for the Greenbelt Pedestrian Trail and the South Park Accessible Playground. This was scheduled for City Council review on the 25th, but City Council did move this item for review at its next meeting on April 8th, so we will certainly keep the Commission up to date on the outcome of this item. And then we have the Day at the Beach, Hermosa Beach Open. The long-term agreement was approved by City Council at its February 28th, 2025 meeting, but the event producer is requesting a different form of an agreement with the city serving as owner of the event and allowing for event fee waivers through this. Staff is going to return to City Council with an information item on the overview of the differences between a long-term agreement and the type of agreement that the event producer is requesting. And that was per council's request in future agenda items. And that concludes my Community Resources Director's report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public comment.
This is the time for members of the public to address the commission on items on and not on the agenda, but within the commission's jurisdiction. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes and will be taken in person only. A total of 30 minutes will be allocated for this comment period. As a reminder, another public comment period at the end of this meeting is reserved for those whose comments could not be heard during this first public comment opportunity. A reminder that if you address the commission on a discussion item, you will not be able to address the commission on the same item when it is heard at a later part of the meeting. First, we have Yu Shen.
Go ahead. Hi. Okay, my name's Yu Shen Ing. I'm a resident of 6 months, actually, just moved to Hermosa Beach. And I live just one block, about a block and a half away from the Kelly Park. I want to speak about pickleball. And even though I live so close, I never play there. The reason I never play there is it's very hard to get a reservation. The hours are quite limited. And also, most important, actually, there's no open play. So let me explain that just a moment. What is open play? It's a scheduled time for no reservation kind of walk-up play. It's on demand. You can just walk up, get in a line, join the next game. And it's much more flexible. It's more social. It works great for me because I'm an individual. I don't have 3 other partners if I want to play doubles. And it's social. It's very social, much more social than reserve play where you're playing with your family or other people. And it's equally physical. So where I play, I actually play in Manhattan Beach and in Hawthorne. I play 2 or 3 times a week. I work, so I play at nights and I play on the weekends. And it's not just me. I think we all understand there's a huge community demand. I see it up front. There are probably several hundred in the community who play at Manhattan Beach. My guess is there's probably maybe 300 on any weekend. When I go there, I see typically about 50 to 75 on weekend mornings at a time. There's probably a few shifts. People play for a few hours, so add up, it might be 300 on a weekend. In the community, there might be, I don't know, who knows, 500 to 1,000. That's a lot of players. And it's not just physical, it's also mental, it's social, good for the community. I meet a lot of people there, actually. The problem with playing there is, number 1, I have to drive. Number 2, there are lines. Because of the demand, for every player, there's 1 or 2 waiters. And I end up playing about 50%.
You're over your time limit of
Okay.
15 seconds.
All right, I'll give you my 3 asks. 3 asks. As part of the remodel, let's not just do the status quo of existing 4 courts. My request is that you'd draw lines to provide an option on the existing tennis
You're
court.
well over your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also,
Appreciate it.
can I also speak at general comments later, or how does that work? For my other 2 requests?
No. So once again, just so for everyone's edification, you can either speak now during general public comment, you get 2 minutes, or if you wait till the actual agenda item, you will get 3. You cannot speak at both. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next, we have Carla Buck.
Wait, I can't see. So my name is Carla Buck, and I'm here on behalf of the Bark for a Park group, advocating for a dog park in Hermosa. We're so excited the dog park is on a future agenda item for this commission. We believe there are at least 3,000 dogs in this city, not all of which would take advantage of a off-leash park, but if only a third of them did, it would enrich their lives and enhance the community of dog owners who love this town. So far, in our online petition at hermosabeachdogpark.com, we have over 1,000 signatures in support of a dog park. And in talking with dog owners in the city, we have seen tremendous passion to find a place for their pups to run and a willingness to take action. We've been listening to the supporters and their ideas, and so far we have 11 locations in the city that could serve as a park. And obviously, there won't be 11
Recording
locations.
stop. Recording
Oh.
in progress.
But as this commission takes this effort on, we encourage you to think how best you can serve our furry friends and their owners. Of these 11, we think there are 4 to 5 that have great potential, and realizing how much our residents love the walkability of the city, perhaps we can create 2 parks, one north and south, one east or west. Having parks that more residents can walk to reduces demands on parking and fits into the city's strategy to be greener and healthier. And perhaps one of these parks has 2 areas, one for small and one for large dogs, so the Great Dane and the Pomeranian don't intimidate each other. We know it's going to be a lot of work to flesh out. We've already sent you our business plan, which includes best practices and lessons learned on dog park features, rules and norms, cost estimates, maintenance, and funding strategies. We continue to do more research we hope will be useful to the city. Hermosa is a lean city, and one of the key strategies suggested in the recently adopted Parks Master Plan is that teaming with the community groups can help the city do more and faster. This is how the Bark for Park Group hopes to be, an actively engaged resource and trusted partner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I don't have any more public speaker cards at this time, but if there's anyone that would like to speak in the chambers, please approach the podium and state your name and city of residency for the record.
Okay, last chance. All right. Thank you very much. We'll close public comment and move on to commissioner comments.
We don't respond with answers up here, but I would like you to reach out to me. I think you need to be updated on a few things here in the city, because you're new. Happy to talk to you about that. And Bark for a Park, something's going on in Manhattan Beach. I saw something about a dog park today, so don't know if you're following. I don't know what it is.
Any other fellow commissioners have a
Quick one.
comment? Yes.
We have a written comment from Howard Lee about the curb at 6th and Ocean. And he's right, it's been there forever. I'm sure there's a reason it's the way it is. We've all seen it. Maybe somebody, maybe in Public Works, can give him an answer. He probably deserves an answer.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So I could provide an update on that public comment as well. Yes, that has been shared with the Public Works Department, and that will be addressed through the city's transition plan. So that is a several-year-long project. So while not immediate, it's on our radar and would be addressed through that plan.
Great, thank you for bringing that up. I'm going back to the director's report, and I continue to bring up that regarding the Greenbelt pedestrian trail, that generally the whole Greenbelt is a pedestrian trail, and I think that we need to come up with a different name for the accessibility portion of it, and we are renaming it. But I think possibly by identifying the whole Greenbelt as a pedestrian trail, that will also let people know that it is not a bike lane or it's not a traffic lane, and something for consideration when referring to what we're doing there. I just wanted to note that the city refers on the website to the Greenbelt Park as the Greenbelt. It's referred to as the Greenbelt Nature Trail and the Greenbelt Pedestrian Trail. So I think we should figure out what best serves us, in terms of how we refer to it, because that can be important as people realize what the purpose of it is. So I wanted to ask about that. And then the day at the beach, is there anything else you can tell us about this?
Just following council's approval of the long-term agreement, the event producer, before providing a signature on the agreement, requested a different form of an agreement where the city has ownership over the event, and we essentially contract out that company to serve as the event producer. So that's very different than what we usually adopt through the long-term agreement program, which is us essentially providing approval to an event producer for them to hold their event on city property.
Right, it is. And part of the reasoning why is that maybe the city can have ownership of the name Hermosa Beach Open?
Part of the reasoning provided by the event producer was concern about the event fees.
Oh, the event fee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is there an
Tracy?
update on the ownership of the name?
There is. We have received the California service mark. We are still waiting for the statewide.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving on to the consent calendar. Does anybody want to remove anything for discussion? If not, is there a motion to receive and file 9A and 9B?
I'll make a motion that we receive and file.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yes.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Moving on to public hearings. Lisa, is this where we wanted to move things around? Or is that for matters for commission consideration?
We had discussed matters for commission's
Perfect.
consideration.
Okay. Then we'll move on to 10A, approval of impact level 3, new 2025 special events or event.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. This item is staff's recommendation that the Commission hold a public hearing to recommend the approval via City Council the inclusion of the LA Kings Smart Water and Coca-Cola Hydration Zone on the 2025 special events calendar and an exemption to exceed the monthly special event days limit in September and the daily special event limit on Saturday, September 20th, 2025. Next slide. Just a quick recap of what we discussed at last time's meeting. The LA Kings initially planned to host an event in 2024. In June of 2024, a late application was submitted but did not meet the late application criteria. Council then directed staff to advance the LA Kings late event application forward for formal review. In July of 2024, City Council approved LA Kings Smart Water Hydration Zone and Sprite Chill Zone south of the pier. August 1st, LA Kings provided notice to the city that their 2024 event would be canceled and requested their event be moved to 2025, as there was not enough time to plan for the 2024 event to the standard that we all expected. Following the 2024 event cancellation notice, staff worked with the LA Kings to solidify the new 2025 event date and event details to prepare the event for formal review by commission and city, and to allow staff to have commission and council have that formal review through a public hearing. On March 4th, this item was brought to commission formally review the new event through a public hearing. The commission requested staff bring back the LA Kings 2025 event request back to commission for consideration at a future event. So that is why we are here. Commission requested additional information on LA Kings plans to involve the local community in the event, specifically in any outreach to efforts to local schools and organizations. Additionally, Commission requested more information on the activities taking place on the rink each day, as well as a draft timeline of the planned events. As the LA Kings did not have an event representative present to provide this information, the Commission requested staff return with the LA Kings 2025 event request to the Commission for consideration at a future event. Next slide. Next slide, sorry. To quickly refresh you on the event details that were discussed in last meeting, this request is for the 2025 LA Kings Smart Water and Coca-Cola Zero Hydration Zone event set to take place on the beach south of the pier. Setup would take place Monday, September 15th through Wednesday, September 17th. The event would begin Thursday, September 18th and run through Tuesday, September 23rd, with teardown following the event on Wednesday, September 24th. The event is in partnership with Coca-Cola to launch the new LA Kings 2025-2026 hockey season, where Coca-Cola will have an opportunity to promote brand products including Smart Water and Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. The LA Kings would build a sport court on the rink, a sport court rink on the beach for the community to enjoy ball hockey, fitness activities, and the opportunity to interact with members of the LA Kings. Each event day, we are expecting to have approximately 500 participants and around 1,000 spectators. The sport court rink would open from sunrise to sunset. The LA Kings plan to engage with local schools and organizations, including YMCA, National Hockey League, NHL, Street Community Partners, and Sunshine Skates, a foundation dedicated to empowering youth through educational programming and their roller skating activities. The first 2 event days would focus on inviting children from local schools and after-school programs to the sport court rink. Event day 3 and 4 would focus on the involvement of local YMCA groups and other local youth teams and roller programs featuring the NHL, Street Community Partner Clinics, and ball hockey games. A detailed day-to-day draft event timeline can also be found in your attached staff report. Next slide. Next slide. Just for reference, again, this is our draft site map for the event, which was reviewed last time. And next slide. Also for reference, the draft event branding that would be present at the event. Next slide. This concludes my verbal report. If approved, staff would present the Commission's recommendation on the new Impact Level 3 2025 special event to City Council at its May 13th, 2025 meeting for review through a public hearing and formal action. We have asked the event producers to be present to help answer any questions, and staff is also available to answer any questions should you have any.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any questions from commission to staff?
I have a couple of questions
All
for
right, Tom,
staff.
starting at my left.
It seems to me that other than sunrise service, the earliest events we have at the beach are 8 a.m., which I think is triathlon, right? Do we have anything else that starts before 8?
I believe the triathlon starts earlier, but triathlon and the Easter Sunrise Mass are the 2 earliest events that we have scheduled.
And the other question I have, you've given us this schedule of rink usage. Have the Kings told anybody on staff what they intend to do on Monday, the 22nd, and Tuesday, the 23rd?
They will have the brand activations, and I believe their plan is to try to have some talent on site to engage with the public and kind of have some open play, like I know we always compare this to the Rams, but it's the most comparable one we've had where they had open play on the field.
All right, thanks.
But they can definitely speak to that more if they're on the line.
That's all I have for staff.
Thank you. Lauren? Okay. Tracy?
Mic's on. My questions echoed Commissioner Maroney's in terms of the time. And then in addition to that, the early time, it also schedules like from 10:40 to 12:40 and 12:50 to 2:50 schools. And I just thought that was interesting, seeing that it's a Thursday and Friday because schools are in session. And I just wondered what would happen with that time if, is it a field trip that they would be coming down? Okay, well, that answers that. Okay.
We should definitely ask the event producers to clarify because it's a very good point.
Thank you, Tracy. Barb?
Same thing, just kind of curious about the time.
Okay. Do we have the event producer here to field some questions from commission?
I believe we might, if they can raise their virtual hand, or if they're on the phone, dial *6. I do see a virtual hand raised. It looks like we have Jennifer Pope on the line.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hi Jennifer, how you doing? Can you hear us okay?
I can apologize. I'm at the arena right now. We have a game starting in a few minutes, so appreciate you letting me join virtually.
I hope we can have your attention for more than a few minutes. It may take a while. Jen?
Yeah, I'm here. I will do the best I can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate your submission for application. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to my fellow commissioners, starting with Commissioner Maroney to my left. He'll start with a few questions for you, and then we'll go down the list.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jennifer, the question I have is what do you plan on doing on Monday, September 22nd, and Tuesday, September 23rd? There's nothing on the ring usage schedule that we've been provided for those 2 days.
Yeah, we still, if I'm being fully honest, we're still hashing it out with the schools and the community groups. Like they will be used as field trips, as well as different community partners. So, yeah, I told the folks that we are still detailing it out, and that's a rough estimate of what we plan to do, but we still need to dial it in a little bit more. But it will be school groups and community groups as well as different organizations that we work with that were listed earlier.
All right, and on the schedule, you have reserved ice 2 hours starting at 6 a.m. on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What is the
Yeah, we have
reserved
adult
ice
groups.
that's supposed to describe?
We could open it that early. We could not. We have it's just an option. We have adult leagues that love to play both street and ball hockey as well as ice hockey down at Toyota Sports Center. So we could invite them to play should they want to, or we do not have to invite, or we do not need to open it that early. So it's totally flexible.
And what kind of commitment do you have from the players that they're going to have some, something more than minimal presence down there during the week?
Well, the training camp does open that week. That's why we've picked those days. So we'll be working with our team to slot them in as much as we can. As you know, they all live locally, so we'll do our best to get them there as much as possible.
Yeah, that's the only questions I have, Chair.
Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, I had timing questions as well. And so, yeah, I'm looking at the schedule. I'm just wondering how much of this is general community outreach, and how many is this existing, maybe club memberships or leagues like the youth roller hockey. Are those youth that are involved in your existing programs? I don't see too much, but I could be wrong. That's outreach to the community schools.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main question in terms of the community outreach to the schools and giving other kids exposure to the game and a different experience.
Yeah, that's, obviously that's one of our main priorities. We work with all the local school districts on ball hockey clinics, on fitness clinics. So we definitely will work with them and their schedules to fit them in when and where convenient for them. That's probably our first priorities, especially during the week and during those school hours. We do work with a ton of different organizations that already have, like community organizations that have built-in ball hockey as well. So introducing the sport, but then also giving kids that play the sport, like our ball hockey clinics at the YMCA, or our ball hockey leagues at the YMCA, I should say. Paramount, we have ball hockey leagues. Long Beach, we have ball hockey leagues. So working with those groups to, give those kids the chance to play on the beach as well is another priority for us.
Okay. And is there a budget to help with any transportation needs for the kids if it's earlier in the day?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We can work with that as well. We have various transportation partners that we can engage, and then obviously we'll have some budget as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tracy?
Is there any plan for, you've got a lot of groups coming in, any like cleaning and maintenance and security to happen during the days that you've got events going?
Yeah, we'll work with, with your team and whoever, Lisa and team deem necessary to make sure that it's clean and that we have the appropriate security. But we have a full security staff that will engage and make sure that they're staffing it appropriately as well. So whatever is required, we'll do that for sure.
Okay, and then I seem to recall that the bleachers are now benches. They're not like a full set of bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Easy.
I think that's it for right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barb?
Hi. Let's see. So you have an estimated number of participants of 500, but you have an estimated number of spectators of 1,000. I'm just looking at the site map. Restrooms. We know our restroom infrastructure is small and old. I didn't see anything here, but I don't remember what we did with the Rams. I remember it was over summer, it was busy. We had restrooms all up and down the Strand that summer. Are we expecting 1,000 people? Is that part of the deal here? They're going to take care of all that?
We would definitely be prepared for those numbers, those participant spectator numbers, and there will be portable restroom requirements. We work with Public Works to set that number through the special event pre-meetings once the event is approved. And they are placed on the concrete slab near the existing restrooms at the pier.
Okay. We've already discussed it doesn't seem like it's a necessity to have hockey on the beach at 6 o'clock in the morning. Just, that seems excessive since it's really unusual. And what we do have right now, Sunrise Service, they're stealth. We don't even know they're here. Okay. I'm just still a little confused, and it sounds like you guys are too, exactly what the program is for the children coming down. And a lot of that is because hockey is an unusual sport to have on the beach. So maybe I'm just not being as creative. So I was hoping I'd get a better idea of how we were reaching out to the kids.
It's ball hockey, just it's
Right.
it's sneakers, it's a sport court. So just envision kids with sneakers, like more of like with a rubber softball, running and doing some drills and
Right,
stuff.
with the sticks and hopefully some amazing personalities to give the kids a real sense of being included, something fun. But, okay, that's kind of where I am right now. Nothing new, just again, that 6 a.m.
Yeah, we could adjust that. Like you could consider that adjusted. No problem.
Yeah, I'm just noticing on the application, it says 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. each day. And then this, I think, updated
Yeah.
schedule has this earlier time that everybody is pondering over.
Yeah, we'll change that. That's that honestly, like we had our community team just put together our initial ideas. So it's again, I'm sorry, we've just been a little as we all are crazy the last couple of months, and so we're just trying to get caught up here on a few things, and we're in the middle of 10 home games. So I apologize if there's some mistakes in there.
Unfortunately, we don't know, so that's why we're asking a bunch of questions.
Yeah, no, please ask.
Okay, thank you. So this is round 3. Last year, the event didn't go through. I think it was last month. You guys weren't here. Now you're here. So thank you very much. So bear with me while we go through a few more questions, okay? The Rams did a wonderful job, and they set the bar really high for any sports teams that come to town and use our beach. So we're excited, and we can only imagine that you guys will equal that, especially since we have so many current and past Kings that call Hermosa Beach home, and we've hosted Kings Parade. So we're really, really excited to see what kind of activations you have. Is there anything that we're not seeing here, and you have the floor now to elaborate on and let us know what to expect? And I'm going to give you maybe some ideas. Is there going to be a mascot? Are there going to be Kings giveaways? What can we expect before we make a decision this evening? Because right now, everything is super vague, and the track record is wobbly at best.
Yeah, no, we're super excited. Our like I said, our training camp dates are set. So this will serve as, a main kickoff to our season. We'll have Bailey, we'll have our ice crew, we'll have various giveaways for sure. Again, our season will kick off in a few short weeks after that. So this is really, a focal point to getting the word out that we're back. We plan on having our players, having our alumni. We're really, we're working. We'd work with Lisa and her team for whatever and anything that you guys want. And I like to think we are super flexible. Again, I apologize that it didn't happen last fall because we didn't think we could make it as great as we normally do make our events great. So, and again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but we pulled our response to the fires has been pretty significant, and we pulled together. I hope you guys saw it. A large celebrity fundraiser here at Crypto.com in just 3 weeks. So it's just been, you know, again, not trying to make excuses, but it's been a whirlwind over here and straight into our 10 games in March. So, I promise you have our, we want to make this the best event yet. The South Bay is our home, and we pride ourselves in that. So, I'm happy to sit down with the team and detail that schedule out a little bit more for you guys if that helps, and take these notes and make sure that again, we're not starting at 6 a.m. and get a little bit more concrete information from the schools, because to be honest, we have our relationships and we've given them that, the heads up, but we haven't, completed that plan fully with them. So I'm happy to do that. But just know, like, we want it to be Kings weekend in Hermosa, and the Kings, use Hermosa as our South Bay and our season kickoff. And I hope you guys are watching, because we're playing, knock on wood, really well right now. And I'm hoping we're, to be honest, asking to do a watch party in the later rounds this year on the pier. So yeah, I guess that's my spiel. And we love working with you guys. We love working with all of the cities in the South Bay, and we're hoping we can make this work. So
Hey, Jennifer, I think where Commissioner Lang was going as well, perhaps, we want this to be more of a Kings event than a Coca-Cola event. And and I know they're a sponsor and all of that, but I think the community has more of an attachment to the Kings, and we'd rather have a Kings mascot there than a Coca-Cola mascot, and
yep.
We'd rather that be kind of I think the theme and the flavor of it overall.
No, noted. Yeah, and we agree. Like, we'll come back with our sponsorship group and talk with them and get the final plan with what Coke/Sprite want. But we're definitely in alignment with those thoughts, and want it to be more of a Kings event than a Coke event for sure.
Lauren, thank you. Yeah, I was definitely going towards that direction, because looking at the schematics that you have laid out, there's 15 banners for Coke and Smart Water, 3 tents with Coke and Smart Water, and only 6 items of King's signage. Plus, the event is called the LA Kings Smart Water and Coca-Cola Hydration Zone. Nothing to do with Kings Weekend in Hermosa, like you sales pitched us just now. So since you have said you still have a lot of moving parts to, before we finalize, from the schools to a lot of other elements, I would make a friendly recommendation if we could change the name of it from what I just read, to Kings Weekend in Hermosa Beach Kickoff Party, something to that event. I think it would go better with the city, but that's just my recommendation. I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks. So think about that for a second. And those are all the comments I have. If there's anything else you have to add, please do so.
Nope, I like the party idea too.
Are they your sole major sponsor for this?
Yeah, when we started this, yes.
Okay.
So, but like I said, I'll go back with our team and regroup and see what we could, shift them away from, as well as, obviously, like, amplify the Kings in Hermosa, the party, kickoff season launch, etc.
And you said you would go back. What sort of timeline does that put you guys on? How far does it set you back for promotion of the event?
For public promotion of the event?
Or just the event in general?
Yeah, no, I
Before
think,
you can go to market, because if you're going to,
Yeah.
you said you were going to go back and talk. Before we make
Yeah.
approval, we would like to know, because who knows how this vote goes, you may have to come back again to us.
Yeah, we wouldn't start promoting this publicly probably until at some point probably after the draft. We're hosting the draft this year through end of June. So we'd probably get through that and the July 4th holiday, and then publicly announce it, but have our groups planned and situated before that, obviously.
I've got one final follow-up question from me. Would it be fatal to your proposal if we only approved 8 days instead of 10, if we took out that Monday and Tuesday after the weekend? Would you still come if we said, we'll give you 8 days and not 10?
You know, now see, this is what happens when I'm working. That's why there's no programming. We were taking it down those 2 days.
Well, right now, your proposal is to take it down on Wednesday and the program
Oh,
Monday
sorry.
and Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, then, I mean, I'm sorry. We can, it's a pretty extensive, I have to look at the numbers. It's an expensive, the rink's expensive for us, but I'm happy to look at those numbers and see if it makes sense, if that's what you guys would want.
Thank you. Any other questions from commission?
No.
Okay. Jen, hang tight. I guess we'll open up to public comment right now. Anybody in chambers? Sorry. Is there a comment? No.
Cleared your throat.
We're open to public comment regarding the agenda item. No. Anybody online?
I'm not seeing any virtual hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed, and we'll bring it back to the dais for discussion. All right, team, what do you guys think? We'll start with Tom to the left.
Well,
Okay.
I think we're all hoping for something that I don't think they're in a position to give us a guarantee that we're going to have the most amazing hockey event, but it is their first one. They've made some changes. I do think that it's always good to have something on the beach that isn't volleyball related. I do like the idea of 2 less days on the beach. I'm not sure what that would mean to them. We'll have to let them figure it out. Regarding the sponsorship, I understand that we want it to be more about the Kings. I do know that they probably have some, their Coke has some expectations, and I wouldn't have a problem myself if it was, you gave it a name, if you could repeat that name.
Well, the
You were.
The name on the application's LA Kings Smart Water and Coca-Cola
Right, but
Zero
you took-
Hydration Zone.
Right.
But Jennifer said Kings Weekend in Hermosa. So if this
Correct.
does
And then
apply
and then if
to
it
the season
said-
kickoff,
Then it said
It said
Sponsored by.
sponsored by,
Yes,
I think
exactly.
that's fine, because
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, they do have to pay their bills too.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is just a different fun event, and that we can reach out to the schools, get the kids down here, and also get the adults down here. I think it would be fun to watch everyone using the rink.
Yeah, I think it gives it the right vibe, I think, for the Kings as well. If we, double down on what Jennifer was saying, and Commissioner Lang, Kings Weekend in Hermosa, that sounds really fun. And then sponsored by, because of course, they need to have some recognition there, and the booths and everything else, but it would be, just tweaking it a bit, I think, would make a big difference.
I think this has the makings of a really great event, but it needs those changes. I'm disappointed that we're sort of at our second or third iteration of the event, and it's still not flushed out as to who will be participating and what that looks like. I am not a big fan of the 6 a.m. start, so I was pleased to hear her say that they would be willing to move that to a later time. And I really like the idea of an 8 days, not 10, especially since those days aren't planned for anyway. I don't know that changes, to me, that would maybe be less expensive to not have the infrastructure up 2 more days, but I don't know because I don't pay for that. That's where I am right now.
And Yeah, I think we should go 8 days instead of 10. You know, the event could be fine. You know, I understand it's the first time they're proposing it and they want to get approved before they spend a lot of time telling us who exactly is going to come. You know, I get all that. But we're at 10 days over our limit in September if we approve this event for 10 days. It's 10 days. We don't have any other month that we're 10 days over. So to give a blank slate for all 10 days, we're really only getting programming for 2 less than that. You know, 8 days, they should be able to do what they want to do, and we're still way over. And I just make a point on our limits. You know, when we did the park master plan, one of the questions we asked in the survey of the residents in Hermosa was, do you think we have enough, too many, or too few special events? And 72% said we have enough. Only 13% we said we have too few. And of that 13%, 1/3 of them said we have too few because we don't have concerts anymore, and we put the concerts back in. So there's overwhelming community support for the idea, yeah, these are great events, but, you know, don't overprogram us.
Thank you, Tom. Well, just out the gate, I'm a huge Kings fan, friends with past and present players. My wife is French-Canadian, and my kids are part Canadian. So we're a big hockey family. So I want to see this work really, really bad. But I will say that I am disappointed with where we're at right now with the lack of detailing and the lack of information when asking for permission for a third time. And I'm going to, come off a little bit abrasive because I want this to work. I love the concept of a fish out of water combination where you have hockey on the beach. Yeah, where else in the world can you do that other than Los Angeles? That is a wow factor. But this is not the Kings' first event. They scrambled to do a parade in days, okay? They know how to pull off an event. Does it need to be paid? Absolutely, but this still is overwhelmingly a Coke event. I really want to see a reduction in the branding. I really like the suggestion of sponsored by, but to come this far and not have a working title, shocks me, quite frankly, because this is not the Kings' first event. And let's realize that we have to, remind ourselves, you guys, Hermosa Beach has turned into a world-class venue, let alone a world-class destination in 1 square mile. So if we're going to compromise our neighbors that live just blocks away from this fragile ecosystem we call the commercial zone, we have to make sure and ask the right questions and really not give world-class organizations like this the benefit of the doubt that it's their first time. The Rams set the stage. Super easy. They're a sports team that's neighbors to the Kings, and they can work with our staff on what worked and what didn't. So that's where I'm at. I'm a huge fan of bringing this down to 8 days because with 10 days, once again, there's potentially extra free branding on our sand, okay? So whittling it down to 10 is not a big deal other than giving the sponsor more signage on the sand. So I think we've got a lot to talk about. I really feel there's a lot of missing details, provided how this event goes. Jennifer, if you're listening, it'd be awesome if you brought athletes in when this comes to council and possibly a mascot for the wow factor. You guys are our neighbors. So, once again, I'm providing constructive ideas. I'm a huge fan of this, and I want it to work, but also I want it to be done tastefully in Hermosa Beach because everybody's going to be looking. So bringing it down to 8 days, minimizing sponsorship, enhancing the word Kings, really identifying what it is. Is it a weekend kickoff? Because when, let's say, Icon does their party at Wave Rave in Torrance, it's labeled Icon Season Kickoff Party hosted by Wave Rave. Let's be very clear how we phrase it. Also, there's a really cool hockey store off Ocean Gate called Howie's you may want to look out for. Other than that, those are my ideas, thoughts, and I really want to see this happen. Any other thoughts or questions or concerns by commission before we make a motion?
Yeah, the last thing I would say, so the community knows is, if they do this, the city's going to get, 66 $1,000 in fees, which is not, a small chunk of change.
True. All right.
So we agree that we're approving 8 days, not 10. Is that?
That's our ask.
That's
yeah.
our ask. So I can make a motion that we approve an impact.
Go ahead.
Should we open it up to?
Nope, you guys do not have to.
Okay.
But it's up to the,
Impact Level 3, Los Angeles Kings. I'm not going to add the Smart Water Coca-Cola. I'm just going to say the Los Angeles Kings at the beach, September 15th to September 21st. Is that enough?
and then, once again, this is just recommending approval to city council, but yes.
But recommend the city council also with a side note of 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at this time.
Barbara, I think it has to go to the 21st so they can take it down.
I said the 21st.
Did you say
Yeah.
22nd, I mean? That's the Monday.
Oh, okay. So, okay, so again, September 21st
Correct.
to September 22nd. Okay. Not easy to follow.
I'll second the motion.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yes.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Cool. Good job, everybody. Jennifer, thank you very much. Hope the game goes well. Unfortunately, we can't watch because we are in chambers, but looking forward to seeing what you guys bring back.
Yeah,
Bring
no, I
back.
appreciate it, and
Thank you.
I'll work with Lisa on all these updates and get it over for you. And
Cool. Thank you.
thank you all. Have a good night.
All right, moving on to matters for commission consideration. If the commission is okay with readjusting the sequence and order of some of the presentations or items, I would like to, Patrick, do I need to make a motion? Or is it just get the temperature of the commission
Yeah,
to
Mr. Chair.
resequence?
Mr. Chair, if you can just propose the change, and if there's no objection from your colleagues, we can just move forward without a formal motion.
Cool. I would like to ask the commission if they're okay with bringing 11, putting 11A after 11C.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. Thank you very much. Tom, you okay with that? Okay, sweet. So then we'll move on to 11B.
Thank you, Chair Lang. This item is review of CIP 619 Kelly Courts improvements. Next slide. Following extensive community engagement for over 2 years, City Council approved converting one of the Kelly tennis courts at the Clark Complex into 4 dedicated pickleball courts in March 2017. The Kelly pickleball courts opened to the public in May of 2017. In July of 2020, 2 of the 4 courts were closed due to safety concerns. Next slide. Following the opening of the Kelly pickleball courts, due to the nature of the sport and its use of equipment that produces a popping noise, staff received ongoing feedback from nearby residents on the noise impacts. Staff and the former Department Use Policy Subcommittee of the Commission performed extensive research and made several recommendations to the Commission on various noise mitigation solutions with no resolve for over 3 years. That was until staff and the subcommittee formed a pickleball stakeholders focus group in 2021. The group consisted of representatives from the local neighborhood and pickleball community, and the purpose of this group was to discuss solutions that would limit noise impacts while providing use of the courts during preferred times by the pickleball community. And the group met several times to form policy updates and hours of operations that would allow for that. At its July 13th, 2020 first meeting, City Council approved new use policies and hours as a result of that subcommittee's that stakeholder groups work. The hours provided the pickleball community with access to the pickleball courts during its most desired times and relief to the nearby residents 2 days a week and several evenings. At its November 2nd, 2021 meeting, staff did present a report to the commission on the effectiveness of the adopted use policies and hours after a 90-day period. Staff did report the feedback was limited to 3 members of the pickleball community sharing dissatisfaction with the limited use hours, 1 nearby resident sharing gratitude for the new use hours, and 1 other nearby resident sharing reports of the courts being used outside of the hours of operation. The limited feedback following the implementation of the new use policies and hours in comparison to the level of feedback regarding noise impacts that staff had received prior to these adopted use policies and hours really demonstrated the effectiveness of the consensus building efforts of that stakeholder group. The commission received and filed the report. Since staff's report at that meeting, staff has received feedback from members of the pickleball community demonstrating their dissatisfaction with the limited court use hours and the 2 temporarily closed pickleball courts. Additionally, members of the pickleball community have expressed how difficult it is to secure playtime at the 2 open courts. The courts are available for reservation by residents who obtain a pickleball membership at an annual rate, and then once that membership is obtained, the resident can reserve hours that are for an hourly use fee. Without a reservation, the courts are available on a drop-in basis, free of charge. However, the courts are reserved 98% of the time that they are open. So obtaining a reservation is extremely difficult due to the extremely high demand. There are currently 271 members of the Hermosa Beach Pickleball Membership Program. Staff has not directly received any additional feedback or concern on noise impacts outside of our nearby resident that is reporting continued incidents of unauthorized use of the courts outside of the hours of operations. Next slide. So to provide the background on the formation of CIP 619, to address the safety concerns that led to the temporary closure of the 2 pickleball courts, staff recommended CIP 619 to the City Council at the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 CIP study session in April of 2022. The project would include resurfacing and a design to determine the feasibility of reopening the 2 temporarily closed courts. Council approved the project in June of 2022. In April of 2023, staff presented to City Council a revised scope for the CIP to not only include the resurfacing and reconfiguration of the pickleball courts, but to also include the tennis and pickleball courts, among several other upgrades to the entire Kelly Courts complex. Annually, staff provides the commission an overview on established CIPs that are related to the purview of the commission and the department before the upcoming fiscal year budget is adopted. So at its April 17th, 2023 meeting, the commission was provided this annual review and provided input to staff that it deemed the CIP 619 a high priority project for staff to share that feedback with City Council. Council approved the revised scope of work in June of 2023. In April 2024, staff shared the anticipated timeline for the final design and project advertisement for CIP 619 with the Commission and City Council during the Commission's annual review of the CIP that year and at the City Council CIP study session. Additionally, as part of the Parks Master Plan process to review the plan by the Commission and City Council throughout October and November, staff highlighted the efforts to advance CIP 619, that the design was showing that we would be able to restore all 4 courts as part of the necessary improvements to the Kelly Courts facility. And the plan was approved on, the Parks Master Plan, to clarify, was approved on November 12th, 2024. The plan also highlighted the growing demand for pickleball and the desire for additional facilities, while also acknowledging concern about noise and the need to balance the schedule between open play, reservations, and programming in the sense of classes or leagues. At the February 25th, 2025 City Council meeting, staff requested City Council approval to award a construction contract for CIP 619, Kelly Court improvements, which would allow the city to reopen the pickleball courts that were temporarily closed following completion of the project. City Council did not approve the award of the construction contract, rejected all bids, and directed staff to proceed with providing an additional opportunity to the Commission and the Public Works Commission to review the project and provide feedback. So at this time, I would like to invite Public Works Director Joe San Clemente to provide more detailed information on the project itself.
Thank you, Director Nichols, and good evening, Chair Lang, Commissioners. Just going to advance to another slide. So first, I'd like to start off by some of the existing conditions in the Kelly Court. So the Kelly Court facility includes the basketball courts, tennis, and pickleball courts, all within one facility. One of the main challenges that CIP 69 chose to work to address were the dimensional and safety constraints that started out the southernmost pickleball courts have been closed for some time. However, as we began looking at this facility, there are a number of other dimensional and safety constraints in the facility, as well as other maintenance requirements that do need to be addressed, such as the surface cracking. We have weeds that are now coming through this court. This facility is long overdue for resurfacing, which this project would have addressed. There are a number of surface irregularities, not just cracks, but what I'll call irregularities, which are almost bumps in the court, which would also be addressed through resurfacing. The photo on the right shows the condition of the mesh fence that's on the court. This picture is looking south on Valley Drive. You can see a lot of the fencing, especially in the lower level, is now bowing outwards. This actually reduces the effect of walking with along the narrow sidewalk on Valley Drive, but this is largely the condition throughout the facility, and it's now becoming rusted and rather poor condition. Moving on to the next slide, some of the other challenges with the Kelly Court facility is just current accessibility standards. If you look at the photo on the left, we do have some limited parking in the adjacent parking lot for accessibility requirements. But the photos in the center show the older and very outdated accessible route to the southernmost pickleball location. Currently, you either have to walk down this long path, which does not meet current compliance standards, or you can choose to go through the step between the basketball court and the pickleball court. So largely, the facility does not meet current compliance needs, as well as the other deferred maintenance and dimensional constraints, which do raise safety issues in this facility. Here's a plan view that highlights the court layout. North is to the right of the page. I put an X through the two pickleball courts of the southwest corner, which have been closed for some time due to safety concerns. However, there are other dimensional constraints within this facility in order to bring this up to current standards, dimensional standards, as well as the cracks and gouges that really do exist throughout the facility, as well as bringing this up to compliance with current lighting standards and current ADA requirements to really bring it up to current safety and standards. So how do we fix all of this? This plan, there's a lot to look in here, overlays the proposed lighting system. So proposed is in black, existing is in red, and you can see that everything shifts around a little bit. What we had to do is we had to make a lot of movement within these three facilities in order to meet current dimensional standards, which would be required with any changes to this facility. The key things that we're trying to do are make the pickleball courts a little bit longer, but the tennis courts have to be a little bit wider. In order to do that, the arrow on the top left pushes the concrete wall towards the batting cages, and we have to actually move the concrete slab between the basketball courts and the tennis court, which is on the right in the middle, which helps us make it longer. The other piece that we were able to do is create a new accessible route to the pickleball and tennis courts for as well as a number of gate upgrades as well. So this picture kind of highlights a lot of the different changes that are there. The dark green color is the real change. We had to shift the slab between the basketball court and the pickleball court, so we're shifting it to the right or to the north. In the dark green on the lower left, we're pushing it towards the batting cages in order to get that extra dimension that is required by these Olympic code compliance. But the proposed condition would surface all the courts to deal with all the cracking and other issues that we have, brings all of the facilities up to current dimension standards. We did a detailed photometric analysis to bring this up to current lighting standards as well as the accessibility requirements once we do a modification. This would also replace all the internal fencing and all the mesh fencing along the perimeter as well as screens and new equipment for all of the facilities. This is hoops, poles, nets, and things like that inside the courts, new painting as well. And that's what was all included in the final design that was advertised that Director Nichols had explained earlier. With that, hand things back off to Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, so to provide notice of this meeting to the pickleball community and neighboring residents, on Wednesday, March 26, staff posted signage informing the community at the Kelly Courts that this item would be included on this agenda. So that's on this slide here is the signage that we posted. Additionally, notice was provided to the former pickleball stakeholder group that worked with us to form the current hours and use policies, all 271 pickleball members, and the resident who has reported the use of the pickleball courts after hours, and those notices were provided via email immediately following the council's action at its February meeting. Next slide. So while council will provide final direction on this CIP, staff would like to be sure the commission is aware of the concerns of not proceeding with this CIP, if that is council's consideration. First, the extended closure of 2 pickleball courts, further limiting access for the pickleball community. The continued safety hazards due to poor site conditions and non-compliant layouts. The escalating cost if resurfacing and repairs are deferred any further. Lost investment in design and bid preparation, which is approximately $250,000 to date. Increased community dissatisfaction from both the pickleball community due to the limited play options and nearby residents if these upgrades are not made to prevent the unauthorized or unregulated use of the courts, and the misalignment with adopted plans, including the 2024 Parks Master Plan and goals of Plan Hermosa. So tonight, staff is requesting, again, the commission review the project, provide feedback on it. The Public Works Commission would then provide the project, provide its feedback, and all of that feedback would be shared with City Council to make its final recommendation on this project. And that does conclude our staff report.
Thank you. Commission, have any questions of staff?
Yes. What again is the, I'm just glancing through the CIP, what is the cost of this project? Not the design, but if it were to proceed.
Well, the recommended contract award that went to council in February was for $797,766. However, the project would have to be re-advertised for construction, so we would not have the actual cost until we were directed to go through that. That was what we had received in the first.
Yeah, I was just curious about the estimate. And then I know that the stakeholders, previous stakeholders were notified. Were the homeowners in the areas surrounding the courts notified?
Outside of the signage, we only notified the one contact that we had on file. Since staff has not received any direct complaints since 2021 from any of the surrounding residents, we do not have contact information to send them emails.
So we didn't send out a postcard, or we didn't leave flyers or anything like that?
We didn't do a public hearing for this item. That was not the council's direction for this item.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a few questions. Joe, I've got a number of questions, I think. Could you explain we see everything in different colors, but you've said that the green line shows how much, can I just say new space? Is that what we're saying? That we've given more space to the courts? Is that what the green lines were for?
The dark green area was the added space.
Okay.
So we had to make it wider and longer.
So are we talking like a foot, 2 feet? Just still trying to figure out how we're making this work because that wall is still there,
Right.
the infamous wall.
Which wall are you referring to, Commissioner Elman?
The wall that backs up to the lawn bowling. We're not changing that, we're not adding anything to it to soften it. It's still going to be a concrete wall.
That's correct. So what we would be doing with the southern wall is we have to make the north-south long dimension longer in order to meet required offset dimensions. The southern dimension is actually very close to the standard, so we don't actually need to gain. We're talking about inches, not feet, in order to make it compliant. So the wall would remain, which would allow us to create the additional needed offset requirement between the back of the court, between the court and the wall.
So, because I know we never really were able to discuss the lawsuit and all of that, but we were short a certain amount of space. Is that a fair?
That's fair.
So we've given ourselves more space. The ADA requirements, when you hear that for a basketball court, a tennis court, and pickleball, it sounds unusual. So can you explain what the state is expecting from us?
Sure, thank you. So when we make major updates to any of our facilities beyond just simple maintenance work, we are required to bring things up to current standards. The city, we had mentioned earlier, is committed to a transition plan for ADA for all of our public facilities, and when we do public projects, we are required to meet those standards. And so there are barriers to this facility, so whether or not they are players, and handicap does not necessarily mean wheelchair, but there are other disabilities that could require a more clear route between that parking space and the facility. It could be someone that's coming to watch the game. It doesn't necessarily even mean that they're even playing. But it is something with a public facility we are required to do.
And then what is it that we're doing that would supposedly stop the unauthorized use? What's the difference between the fence that we have now and the fence that you're putting up?
Go ahead, Lisa.
We were looking into anti-climb fencing and the possibility of raising the fence between the tennis court and the pickleball. It's not completely straight across. There is an area that dips, that is lower, that may be the cause or the way that people are able to break into it, because the tennis court hours right now are not the same as the pickleball court hours. The tennis courts are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., along with the basketball courts. The pickleball courts themselves have different hours.
Right. Okay.
If I could too, actually, another added mitigation item is there's going to be there's another gate that's being installed. So if you look at the concrete accessible path, it's kind of on the top of the page. At the end of that path, there will be a new gate that will be installed. So if someone were to hop the fence, they'd almost have to jump 2 fences now. So it might help mitigate that closing off that area between the end of the path and the lawn bowling club.
So pardon me to interrupt. So we have people jumping the fence to play pickleball right now?
We do.
Like on a regular
Outside.
basis, or it just happened once, or it's a regular offense, kind of like when we lock up the skate park or used to?
It's pretty often.
Okay.
I do stay in touch with the nearby resident. She's very good at reporting it to staff, and staff immediately goes down there. So we've been able to track that it is an issue, and we've identified that it's possibly those 2 areas that I mentioned, and that, Joe said there's an additional effort that could be made to eliminate the gate area as well. So
just real quick to get some history on the offense of this, the players jump the fence that's locked, they're playing, and we haven't caught them?
no, we catch
We've
them,
caught
and
them,
we tell
okay.
them they immediately need to leave and that the courts
But
are not
police haven't
open.
intervened or anything like that in these situations?
At times, we've had to call
Okay.
if they don't leave. and they've helped escort them off the premises.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. Go ahead, Barb.
I'll go back to that later. I think those are my construction questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
The windscreen. Are we considering an acoustic windscreen?
I can speak to that. During the 3 years of the subcommittee and staff working together to review some of those options, like the acoustic fence, acoustic blanket, were two that we were really looking into, we stayed in touch with cities that had used those noise mitigation options and those materials, and really found that it wasn't as effective as one would hope, and really didn't make substantial enough difference to the noise. And Commissioner Ellman was part of that subcommittee, and she did a lot of work too, talking to those cities. So I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner Ellman, just in case you have anything else to add, because I wasn't working with you directly on that at that time.
And one of the bigger problems that we found, first, yes, it doesn't do much, but more importantly, it doesn't allow air to get on into the courts, and it becomes unusually hot. So it doesn't really do its job well in the first place, and then it adds a lot of heat to both the tennis court and the pickleball courts, because the air just does not move around the court well because it's thicker. But I can assure you, and I'm happy to take you anywhere that has one to listen, that the noise is not mitigated enough that I personally think it's worth the money that we would have to spend over a regular acoustic fence. What do we call the fence that's up there right now?
Windscreen.
The windscreen. So.
The back wall, the south wall against lawn bowling. That is the most substantial wall in the complex. I'm guessing if we had an injury, it involved that wall. But we're not, pads, we don't want to put them up because they're a hassle to maintain, or we don't think they'll make a difference, or have we considered padding that wall?
So they're not required if we meet the dimensional constraint. So it'd still be limited. It would be an added addition if we added it in. The other concern would be the thickness and the width that it would create. So would that then create a substandard dimension if we were to install it? So right now, as designed, the only place where we're adding padding is on the basketball hoop poles, and we're looking at some of the light poles for having padding on those, but not on the back wall because it's outside the required dimension once the court is renovated.
How far out is the west wall going? We're talking 6 inches?
It's a matter of inches or feet, not significant.
And who did we ask to evaluate that this change in configuration, that the dimensions that we're going to are absolutely in compliance with what's considered the national standard? So if we were to be sued again, we could say, no, we had this expert come in and tell us that this is sufficient. Did we look to anybody outside of the city to make that evaluation?
Yes, so we hired a professional registered landscape architect that has stamped the plans and certified that it meets the requirements for the dimensions. This has been reviewed thoroughly internally, but by having that, it does grant the city some design immunity, and City Attorney Duggan could speak a little bit further about that.
Yeah, correct. We
Excuse
had
me.
dedicated professionals. I believe it was the American Pickleball Association, the APA, an outfit I was not originally familiar with, but they have, articulated court lengths and widths. The purpose, or one of the many purposes of this project, is to ensure that the pickleball courts adhere to those. And so, as Director San Clemente said, when we have that, it does afford us, some modicum of design immunity. Of course, it's still a public park, so I can't sit up here and tell you no one's ever going to sue us again, no matter what happens in there, but it does provide us a lot more protection. Yes, Mr. Commissioner.
No, I appreciate that answer, and I just wanted to ask the question so people listening know that, we have gone through a process to make sure we're avoiding the problem as much as we can. The pathway along the west wall, west entrance, Is that, there's a side gate way down near lawn bowling. Is the pathway going to go down to that gate or to the gate that's near the basketball court?
The pathway would connect between the parking lot. There's currently ADA stalls there that would be restriped to bring you up to compliance. And there's currently an opening near the northwest corner, kind of close to where the basketball courts are. You can see it in the blue, the light, there's two light blues, but the lighter blue, which would link from the basketball court or from the parking lot adjacent to the basketball court. You actually kind of walk in where you go to the batting cages. You go between the batting cages in the two facilities, but it's going to be shorter. Currently, that path goes all the way down to where lawn bowling is. We're truncating that path. It's going to be much shorter so that you can actually just get into the pickleball tennis court facility.
Right, but there is a second gate into the pickleball down near lawn bowling.
Correct. And that gate would likely, I believe it still remains, but it would be more for access for maintenance or other uses, but not for public.
And then Lisa, the use policy suggests certain equipment, but it's kind of generic. It says what, don't use wood and aluminum paddles. And as I've reviewed this, going through the internet and through these professional organizations, there's a whole host of what they consider acoustically favorable or acoustically sound equipment. Could we revisit our use policy? I'm sure we know a lot more. I'm sure the professionals know a lot more about what's quieter, and maybe come up with a list of, these are really the rackets that we want you to use. And I don't know how you enforce that. Maybe you tell them you give them an annual rate. You waive their annual rate if you'll show us that you're using this sort of equipment. That's all the questions I have for staff.
Commissioner Roney, we could certainly revise the use policy. This may sound familiar as I share the answer. We had always planned to revisit the use policy following receiving a construction timeline for this project because of the fact that right now we know the courts are so heavily used through reservations. We would revisit the use policy so that we can discuss the concept of having open play hours and really reinstate the stakeholder group and have a group of nearby residents and pickleball players to review that policy as we did in the past to form something that we could both sides could be in agreement on.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on that I think Commissioner Elman, didn't you mention at some point there are some updated pickleball balls that?
Yes, there is a new pickleball ball made in, I believe, Michigan. It is rather expensive and lasts. Pickleball, for people who play well, pickleballs don't last very long. This is going to get me in trouble. If the pickleball players would play with a foam ball, you would be able to play pickleball in this town from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. But they won't. It's like using a flatter basketball. And we have been through this a very, very long time. I carry, this ball is in my briefcase all the time. There's a word on the ball that I'm not allowed to show. But this was what was waiting for me on my front door one day, because that's how mad the pro pickleball and the anti-pickleball people are. Everybody is tired. And we're going to start this conversation all over again, and I look forward to it. And this is the game. The game is with a wiffle ball, and a wiffle ball makes a terrible noise. We're getting off course here with that, but it's something that needs to be discussed, and it will be discussed. But there is a new pickleball. I think you can get 2 or 3 balls for $60, and they supposedly, you can play them for 500 games or something. I'm not exactly sure how true that is. Maybe I can get Lisa to buy some, and we could take them down and have some players try them. But right now, we are going to open up a Pandora's box. And when we closed the courts during COVID, and we had the problem afterwards where we were sued, We did say we would open up the four courts afterwards and revisit to see how the program was going. And so I think I'm out of line here with what I'm saying because we're still asking questions, correct? So
Correct. This is supposed to be clear.
that's my answer to you is there are other balls, and there's a conversation to be had of how we could monitor whatever equipment we would require. It's just unfortunately that our office is so far away from the courts. It's just it's a difficult ask of staff, and we all know that. But anyway.
My fellow commissioners are so thorough, I only have a couple questions. Does the proposed plan affect the batting cages?
It does not.
Okay. How much, I don't know if you can answer this, how much does this plan differ from the previous plan that was submitted to, where the RFP went out for bid and the number was $797,766 and maybe some change to increase that? Do we have any idea what changed in this plan versus the old proposal?
Based on so nothing's changed in this plan from what council reviewed in February,
Okay.
when
We're just
staff was
talking.
awarding
it didn't come
was
here.
requesting to award the construction contract.
Okay.
And we can't guarantee that we're going to get those same
Similar bid.
bids at that same cost.
Okay. I think that's it for me for right now.
Thank you. Anybody else? Joe, quick question. So CIP 619 pertains to the pickleball courts, tennis court, and basketball, correct?
That's correct.
That whole space. And then in a perfect world, you get the green light to go tomorrow. What's the timeline from commencement to conclusion of the project?
So council directors to come to your commission, followed by Public Works Commission, followed by council. Pending successful outcome and request by city council to advance this project, given other priorities that will be considered with the upcoming budget cycle, they could direct us to re-advertise the project with no changes. To do that, staff does have to prepare, re-advertise. That typically takes about a month for bidding, followed by about another month to 2 months to review bids, subject to receiving adequate bids, and make recommendation to city council for a potential contract award. So all in, that's about a 4 or 5 month process there. The actual construction work, it would not likely be able to begin until likely late fall. We're looking at the end of the year, and that's if we move quickly.
So it'll be done by end of the year?
You'll take
Provided you can
about,
break ground and do whatever you need to do, because
No.
extending a slab, that sounds gnarly.
yeah, there is work that needs to be done. So we are doing resurfacing, there's concrete work, there's some fencing adjustments, there's electrical work that has to happen. So there's a number of trades that does have to happen to make all the changes. So the full duration of the project's probably about 2 months, I believe. I think we had about 2.5 months of working days required. Of course, we're going to need a contractor to bid on that and determine what the actual project schedule would be. But I'm thinking it's about a 2 to 3 month process to get all the work actually completed once construction begins. Like I said, I think the earliest, even if we got full go and received good bids within budget, there are a number of hurdles ahead of us. The earliest we could start construction is likely October, and that's if we get the full green light to go ahead.
Wow, okay, cool. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions. Commission, you guys okay with me opening it up to public comment? Okay. I'd like to open it up to public comment right now. Thank you very much, Joe. Anybody in chambers would like to address this agenda item, please do so right now.
I do have a public speaker card, and
Awesome.
just as a reminder, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We did have a speaker before. We have Scott Hayes.
Good evening, Commission. I strongly encourage the Commission to recommend to Council that CIP 619 proceed exactly as it is. Public Works staff has worked hard to redesign and reconfigure the Kelly Courts complex to restore the same basic configuration that was in place when the courts were opened. Plans were drawn, an RFP was put out, and bids were received significantly under budget, and at the 11th hour, 3 council members and 1 commissioner recommended to waste all of that time, effort, and money put into this project to give the council and community another chance to review the project. The problem is that this project does not significantly change anything. It simply puts the courts back to the original 4-court configuration. The council and the community are well aware of what this project is about. In 2021, there was a focus group of concerned residents that came up with recommendations to try and satisfy all of the parties involved. Those recommendations were reviewed by Parks and Rec and by City Council, where some modifications were implemented. While there have been only 2 courts active since the accident that closed the courts, the other 2 courts, everyone has always understood, sorry, I got myself lost here. Everyone has always understood that the use hours and use policies were intended for the full use of the facility. Council had an opportunity to review this project at multiple CIP study sessions. Director Nichols reviewed CIP 619 with the Parks and Rec Commission after each CIP study session. Everybody has always known that 4 courts were going back. For anyone to state that they were not kept in the loop in this project is disingenuous. It's been before the council and commission many times. I think it's a travesty that City Council, with the encouragement of at least 1 Parks and Rec commissioner, decided to reject all of the bids. Council has wasted thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money, as well as thousands of dollars that contractors spent putting their bids together. When this does come back out for bid, it is likely that some of the contractors that originally bid the project will not bid again. It is almost certain that the price will be higher. The time to make changes to a project like this is early in its conception, when there are plenty of opportunities to make changes. There were plenty of these opportunities as this project was introduced to council and the community in 2022. Instead, what has happened is we've waited until we're ready to award the project to a contractor for people to finally pay attention and want to make changes. Again, I strongly encourage the Commission to recommend to Council that CIP 619 proceed exactly as is, as this will be the least cost impactive. We might actually be able to reuse some of that $250,000 that we spent on plans and staff time, although much of that money will be lost. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then
You
did
can't
we-
speak again.
If you could state your name and city of residence. Yes.
That's no problem. Tracy Tozier, 563 11th Street. This city council is aware of the persistent, impulsive, repetitive noise that is pickleball, and instead of solving for the current noise problem, the city's idea of a solution is to add more courts, which will create more noise. Even the USAPA is aware of the noise generated by pickleball and that it is disruptive, particularly in residential neighborhoods, yet the city moved forward without proper due diligence and placed this noise nuisance directly on top of residents. The city's complete lack of resolving the current noise issue before adding to the problem shows the lack of empathy towards impacted residents. After 8 years, the city has not completed a single noise mitigation step to help residents. Placing a pickleball court near residential homes without proper planning is a functional equivalent of planning to create noise problems and community conflicts, which the city has done. The city refuses to act on single solutions to reduce the stress that noise causes. You've allowed pickleball players to damage city property with zero accountability. You've allowed players to tear plastic paper signage. You've allowed players to jump blocked fences. You've allowed players to bully tennis players when they attempt to play on the designed tennis court. Most terrifying is that the city is aware that players have verbally attacked residents and acted out in a very aggressive manner, and the city has done nothing, zero regard for residents' safety. At less than 180 feet from these courts, I hear every pop. That is approximately 900 impulsive pops per hour of play per court. You do the math and the number of pops I am subject to in just one day. There is not a single room in my home that I do not hear pickleball. I will no longer stand here and be insulted that the repetitive noise of pickleball is no different from traffic, lawnmowers, or leaf blowers. This is a response that is manufactured by USAPA as a part of their sales pitch to cities. I also will not be bullied into being told that I need to change my life so that pickleball can exist in a space it does not belong. I should not have to fight this hard to enjoy a quiet home. The council refuses to educate themselves on the negative impacts of pickleball. You refuse to take responsibility for not properly monitoring these courts so that pickleball players are not playing when the courts are closed. You continue to be made aware of this issue and have refused any mitigation attempts. You want pickleball so badly? Do the right thing and move these courts away from residential homes. You claim to listen to the impacted residents, then lied about reduced hours. I have yet to receive a single day that is free from the noise of pickleball. I have pages of dates and times that I've called the city to report pickleball when the courts should be closed. You do not monitor these courts, as was promised. All you have done is lie and manipulate the residents. The city's lack of proper monitoring of these pickleball courts continues to cause me undue stress and anxiety. The city has allowed players to not be responsible for rules set in place and instead has punished the impacted residents. I will no longer wait around for failed promises and have no trust that this city will do the right thing to move these courts to a more suitable location away from homes. You played us good in 2017 when no one had any idea what pickleball was. Today, I am so well informed of this noise pollution by pickleball across the USA, yet this city refuses to acknowledge documented facts. That's the end.
Thank you.
Next, we have Bill Hine.
Hi. I'm Bill Hine with NLS Lighting, and I live in Manhattan Beach, but my office is in Hermosa Beach at 800 Hermosa Avenue. Avid tennis player my whole life, been a lighting manufacturer for 40 years. Part of the problem with this particular bid was the specification and the price of the facility. Our company is a local manufacturing company. We've lit over 500 tennis clubs and pickleball clubs across the country, especially the South Bay, the Manhattan Country Club, South End, West End, Kramer Club, PV Racket Club, Manhattan Heights, Live Oak Park, just to name a few. And the company that was specified for the lighting charges $10,000 a light fixture. The light fixtures you currently have there already meet the photometrics that they had proposed. They're LED. They have a recessed and concealed light source. They were installed in 2016. There was a gentleman named Els Freeman with the city that made me personally meet with all the neighbors to go over the lights and explain them, and you haven't had a single complaint in 10 years about lighting. They could be upgraded to new very simply at about $400 a piece. But the bid is for $10,000 a fixture, $120,000. It's kind of crazy, and you already have the light levels. So I just wanted to say that I've written to council. I had notified the winning bidders because we were going to meet the new photometrics with new fixtures. They were going to pocket $80,000 themselves and try and push the, because we met the requirements and we have all the facilities under our experience in the neighborhood. It's better that the city saves the money and changes the specification immediately.
Thank you.
Next, we have Geraldine Poon.
My name's Geraldine Poon. I live on Monterey. I've been a Hermosa resident for about 8 years. I'm a taxpayer, homeowner. I walked up to the pickleball courts about 8 years ago and was met with a very friendly face. He just said, come on by any morning, someone will show you how to play. And I've been a passionate player ever since. It's a game that allows people to play with all different ages, and it's a wonderful community. I haven't stepped on the courts here in years. I'm not a member of the group here. There may be 271 members, but most people I know don't play here. I used to play here every day. It was a great community. We were harassed as pickleball players. I was there once, and we were locked in. It's not the story you're hearing is one-sided. Residents walk by swearing at you, cussing at you. I'm sorry people are jumping the fence. I don't jump fences. I just want to play on my home courts. I'm happy to hear that you could go back to 4 courts. It's disappointing looking at that history that those 2 courts have been vacant since 2020. Like, that's sad. 2 courts empty, vacant. There are weeds growing on it. I'm disappointed, and I think you should be disappointed that nothing's been done since then. It's really, really sad. I spend so much time in the car driving to go and play pickleball other places. It's unfortunate that Manhattan Beach, Redondo, they can all build courts. What's going on here? We've invested money, let's go back to 4 courts. I mean, we fundraised to do a sound study. 4 courts versus 2 courts, the sound increase is incremental. I was a participant in the Master Parks Plan. I was a participant in different meetings, and I've tried to voice my opinions. I've tried to send emails asking for progress. I don't understand why it's taken so long. Please move forward with this plan. Why do we have this vacant space? Just sitting there. We have an opportunity to build community. I moved here for beach volleyball, and this is a great sport that really, really builds community. I really encourage you to approve the plan. I didn't really even understand what the plan was until I got here and I was Googling it, because it's been really hard to get the information. I know most people who I play with didn't even know this was happening. Even somebody I know who was on that residence group study meeting. I told him about it a couple days ago and he didn't know. I'm just really disappointed and discouraged. I've tried to voice my opinion. I've tried to express my thoughts. I understand there is one vocal resident based on what you've said. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gail Rose.
Well, isn't pickleball fun? It is fun, and I have to acknowledge that it's a very popular sport, and people love it. It's just in the wrong location if you live by it, and that's why it causes so much controversy. And I've been on all the committees. I live on 11th Street, have lived there for 43 years. Drove away from it for a lot of years to work, and now that I'm retired, I get pickleball. So I understand people loving it and wanting to play and the enjoyment it brings. The location is difficult because it's not just the 11th Street, which is only one street, but it also goes up the hill to the people above it. And it isn't a large number of people in Hermosa, but it is their home, and it is their lifestyle, and it is their day-to-day living. So that's the only complaint I had, is the noise. The fun of the baseball stadium is terrific. Basketball playing is fun, but it has nothing, there's no comparison with the perpetual sound of pickleball. The reason there have not been complaints, as she mentioned, is because it was reduced in the hours and the number of courts. And I appreciate that we're going to discuss this again. That made it tolerable, a compromise at least, because Hermosa doesn't have the land that Manhattan Beach has. They have it clear out off Marine. It doesn't bother any homes. And Redondo Beach has a huge land. We don't. So a compromise in the future, I'd really appreciate it, so that I can live in my home without cussing at you or anybody else, or having pickleball people angry because they don't have a full-on court. It's just not a location that works. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I do not have any other public speaker cards at this time.
David Grayson, Public Works Commission. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So we've got 2 things going on here from the city business point of view. We've got a CIP project that we would like to move forward. And we also have an opportunity to revisit the usage policies for pickleball and revisit what are the concerns of the residents with the noise and weigh those against the desires of the pickleball community. It appears, based on the council meeting, that there is an appetite for revisiting those policies, and I assume that that'll be the bulk of what you may want to be taking on here in the near term. Regarding the project, I hope you can appreciate that it does go beyond pickleball, and it does involve a lot of improvements. It's got a lot of merit to it. I am disappointed that it wasn't able to move forward in a timely manner. I hope that we are able to expedite that. But somewhere along the way, we may find that there's a connection, for example, between the configuration and the project, namely the 2 versus 4 courts versus the policies. So I look forward to your deliberations on the extent to which you want to undertake this, revisit the policy discussion. I'll be interested in seeing how it may or may not actually drive the configuration and the design and the project. It would be nice if you could get to a point where you decide how far you want to take this, and if you can get to a place where you're comfortable with the extent to which the policy and the project can be decoupled, then maybe that will free Director San Clemente, to move off at some point and move forward with the design. One thing we talked about is maybe going ahead with the 4 courts, and if we change our mind, we could perhaps find a way to repurpose that space. So we'll see. So I understand that you have your job at hand, and just keep in mind if there's a way to decouple the two and move along with the project, that'd be great too. I'm going to take my commissioner hat off and just as an analytical resident point out that if you have 4 courts, it may give you more flexibility in what you do with your policy, and I don't want to alarm anybody, but suppose you had twice as many courts, but you cut the amount of time for pickleball by 25%. So you had twice the courts times 3/4 the usage. Overall, you'd have 1.5 times the amount of time and enjoyment for pickleball. So maybe that's crazy, but the point is that you may have more flexibility if you have more courts, even though it doesn't seem intuitive that that would be the case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to speak?
I'm not seeing any virtual hands
Nobody
raised
virtual?
at this time.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, well, with that said, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Well, kind of addressed a couple things. Being called disingenuous is kind of a disappointment. But here's how I believe this happened, is that there was a lack of communication between Parks and Rec and Public Works. And it's a problem that we've addressed in the past, but we haven't seemed to be able to work together as a team. And that was how this all got started. When you're told that project's going out to bid, but you've never seen what the bid is, when you've never had somebody come in and show you exactly what all this was and have this discussion, then we all need to know what we're doing in the parks. This is our job. And it's a once in 20, 30 year chance to do something. And I just don't believe that we were given the information that we needed. And that was how I will take responsibility for that, but we all have to take responsibility for what we do up here. And this is not the only project that we need to know. When something big is happening in a park, the greenbelt, the beach, we don't just have a right to know, we have to know. We have to know what we're voting on And this just didn't work out right. And I'm not going to apologize for that at all. I'm just going to, again, address my fellow commissioners and any commissioners that are watching that we have to do our job together. So, and that might mean that we should take some extra time and send each other emails and have coffee and meet with the leaders. But I'm not going to vote against this tonight, most likely, unless, of course, someone has something to say. But this is what we're here for. We're here to break down these projects and find out, are we doing the right thing? And that was how this got started. Now, my comments are that I would have liked to have gotten the neighbors and the players together before this project, and that didn't happen. We do have to look at how we're going to make this work the best way we can. I said it before, this is a Pandora's box. We are going to have to get everyone together one more time and figure it out. But if you just change the ball, we wouldn't have this problem. And that's not, again, not going to happen. So I think that this area at Clark Field is going to get what it needs. It's going to get a new basketball court. It's going to get better fencing. It's going to be safer. I appreciate the work that went into it, but again, we just need better communication. I don't think there's, for me, unless someone comes up with something else, I don't think I have any other questions about this project. I just know that we need to get 2 people on a subcommittee eventually and reach out to the residents and the players. But I've already walked the neighborhood, and most of the people that I know have moved away. I know someone that sold their home. We have new people that are renting that moved in December, and you just want to reach out to people, and that's what I'm telling you. You need to reach out to the players. They're new players. You need to have them come back. We need to have this discussion. We need a subcommittee. We need what was the group called? What do we call ourselves?
Stakeholder focus group.
Stakeholder focus group. We're going to have people in this room. This is the most we've had in the room in the last 6 months, but we're going to have people come back. We're going to have the anti-pickleball people over here and the pro-pickleball over there, and we're going to have to work out some new rules and some new expectations. But right now, this project sounds like it will work. Still concerned about that wall, but so that's all I got to say right now.
Cool. Thank you, Barb. Who would like to speak next?
I can maybe speak next.
Well, Barb.
So ditto to what Commissioner Elman said. I am concerned that we've been moving forward with this, and that for our meeting here as well, we did not notify the neighbors in the neighborhood. I think we have probably, as Commissioner Elman said, we have a somewhat stale list. And I think we owe it to the neighbors to allow them to weigh in as well. Not only the pickleball community, but the neighbors in the neighborhood as well. And we are putting the cart a bit before the horse. I know this project has been going on for a while, but sometimes we get surprised by the direction that some things take, and we do need to have another stakeholders meeting. With that, I'm looking at the list of concerns of not proceeding with this, and I appreciate all the work and time and investment that went into this, but I think even if we have invested, and we've invested significantly so far in this, that lost investment is not necessarily a reason for moving forward with something if all the pieces aren't in place, and spending even more money until we are certain of what we're doing. So, this is really tough because we want to maximize the area. I realize what a great sense of community this game is, how fun it is, but Hermosa is uniquely challenged with things like this because we are such a small, tight community, and we want to make sure that it's livable for everybody, but that we can also, leverage and maximize our recreation areas. So it does present a really difficult decision. I don't know why we shouldn't review equipment. And, Hermosa, again, is unique, so maybe we do have to try to mandate, quieter balls. If we double the size, it is going to be double the amount of pinging. And so if we can have specific equipment requirements, maybe that could be more of a win-win for everybody, so that we're allowing more access and we're allowing the neighbors not to go crazy from the noise. And then I was wondering if, I know we're reaching out to neighboring cities that have more space and everything else, and we're reaching out about shared use of pools and other types of recreational facilities. Do we have a sense of, since we had to close down those 2 courts, how many more pickleball courts have come online in our neighboring communities that are close by, so that so that our residents have more access?
Well, since we've closed our courts, Manhattan Beach opened theirs. And I don't have the exact total number of courts,
okay.
But every time we had a member of the pickleball community reach out, sharing their dissatisfaction about the 2 closed courts, we always were sharing our nearby resources for pickleball courts.
Right, and they allow our residents. And in terms of our membership, are those 271 members, are they Hermosa Beach residents?
You have to be a Hermosa Beach
Okay,
resident
that's what
to
I
be a
thought.
member.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. Okay.
Please, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
You guys, yep.
Yeah.
I have
Thank
a
you.
comment if you're finished.
I'm done.
Okay. I agree with Commissioner Ellman. It would have been nice. Hindsight's a really great thing, and it's always 2020 that we had been presented this before. I think safety is paramount in terms of the condition of the courts, and the last thing we would want is for someone to hurt themselves again based on the current conditions, and if they were to deteriorate further. So I do think moving forward with revitalizing and revamping and making them a safer place and allowing for ADA compliance, to me, is important. I believe I've said this publicly, and I'll say it again. I think maybe we as a commissioner and Public Works as a commission could find a way to have a liaison to each other's commission, and that could be on a rotating scale or a rotating basis. It's not for, obviously, discussion for this topic, but maybe could mitigate some of the delays in communication. I appreciate Commissioner Graython's comments and your math. I think that could be something to consider down the road. And I'm very surprised that moving inches will satisfy the safety requirements and the court configurations that need to be, but I'm pleased that it's only inches. That's it for me for right now.
Thank you, Tracy. Tom?
Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts. First, to Tracy's point, the liaison idea is a good idea. We should discuss it more. I don't think it would take a formal action by the commission. I think we could probably just informally say you're going to be a liaison for a year, but we can talk about that. The fundamental question here, the underlying question is, can it be decoupled? You're right, David. I mean, that is sort of where we're at. If we don't want to have more courts because it's too noisy, then it can't be decoupled. And I was one of those who advocated that this come to us before council acted on it, because I think CIPs that affect the parks should come before us. And we just need to sequence how we do it so that we don't get into this position again where there's some delay. If we had sequenced this earlier, it would have come to us and then gone to council. But I think it can be decoupled, because I think most of the problems are use-related. And I think we can look at different equipment choices. I think there's probably a lot of technological advances in that regard that we should actively look at. I think David's point about having greater flexibility is right on. I mean, we could actually limit the hours and have more use. So, I mean, we could really solve some of these problems by having 2 more courts. I will say my concern is that by having walk-in play, you're going to be an attraction to surrounding communities. So you're going to have more use. But if we could limit the hours, then we would get some peace to the neighbors. And then the final thing I would say is the master plan made it very clear that the community wants more pickleball, that the community wants pickleball classes. That was one of the very clear things that came out of the master plan with respect to park programming. So, yeah, we should move forward. The plan, I'm not an engineer, but the plan seems sound to me. All of the issues have been addressed. And then we should pick up with, either through subcommittee or putting it on the agenda, looking at specific things we can do with respect to hours and equipment and whatever else.
A couple questions. How long will the pickleball courts be closed when the project does start, approximately?
Construction would take roughly about 3 months. I can't say exactly at this point.
Okay. Lisa, at this point, we won't be closing the 2 courts, of course. So my question is, we keep chasing people off those courts. What can we do? Can we actually arrest someone for trespassing and they would get a fine of blah?
Yes, Madam Director, do you mind?
Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, that's really more of an enforcement police potential matter. I can't speak on behalf of the city prosecutor, what their appetite would be for things like that. But typically, once again, in instances like this, we as city staff, our main goal is compliance, not to be punitive, not to be draconian, but that's kind of really outside of our.
Right, but if people are climbing a very high fence,
Sure.
and this is not a one-off, this is a constant thing, I suggest that we do more than just escort people off the court. And is that something that we can revisit?
Last time we reviewed this with our police department, it would require several code amendments to be able to enhance their ability to enforce through citations. So we do have several means to address this through this project, which is what we were sure to discuss as we were developing and the design and this to come forward to City Council. So that was where we were sitting at that.
So right now, next Sunday, if someone climbs the fence, we're going to call the police and or staff, and we're just going to escort them off the premises.
Yeah,
and give them a hand
our
slap.
community resources after hours staff goes down and provides the education that the courts are closed, they cannot be using the courts, and if they do not leave, then we will call our police department for enforcement on the education.
And have we had people give us a hard time? Have they always left?
I don't have like exact numbers, but for the most part, the education from our after-hours staff has been successful, but there has been times we've had to call for extra enforcement.
All right. I think that was, okay, thank you.
Got it. Anybody else have any other comments?
One last question. In the 3 years since we last visited the sound studies and that, could there potentially be improvements to the technology for like doing the mesh fence and making it a little more soundproof without impeding airflow? And
we can definitely, I mean,
it could be,
you can look into that. There are, the pickleball portal was very excited about a new pickleball paddle. And I did talk to the city of Long Beach about it, and kind of thing. So, yeah, you never know. Miracles do happen.
that is true. Okay, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. Well, tonight's agenda item and the recommended actions were to review the CIP, which we did. Commission and the community has given us quite a bit of feedback, and thank you very much. I've been a part of every single pickleball conversation that has crossed this dais for the last 10 years. I'm well aware of its benefits. I'm well aware of its negative impacts to the community as well as positive benefits. I live on 6th and Ardmore, and I can hear the pickleball being played. I'm in support of moving forward with CIP 619 as is. We do need to move forward with projects like this because so much time has been invested. I am a fan of decoupling the policy discussion from the CIP, and it's not just pickleball, it's tennis, it's the basketball courts that we have to be mindful of, as well as the impact to the batting cages. So I would like to move on, and then as staff had said, we are going to revisit a lot of the policies and usage conversations. And Barbara, thank you much for all of the time that you've put into it. This is a total bummer. To come after a commissioner, this is a total bummer. You know, it's like, this is like toilet papering your principal's house. It's not even funny. The amount of time that the volunteers have put into making this community better for everybody, and this is what somebody receives, that's heartbreaking. We're here to make sure that we can live together and compromise and recreate together. So that's all I have to say about it. Would somebody like to make a motion to, Lisa, Patrick, are we looking to receive and file, or is a motion necessary to adopt this feedback and proceed on to the next agenda item?
Yeah, correct. I mean, it would probably just be feedback that, of course, staff would take to city council when they bring back this CIP project. So whatever that may be. Once again, at least specifically right now, kind of on the design and physical structures, we understand there could be some future items with the use policy. That's fine, but I think what they're really interested in is any physical changes, recommendations you guys may have. And if not, then it's just kind of, recommend approval as is.
I'm not an engineer. I like what Joe has done.
I think it would be useful for us to say, the sense, I think, is everybody, yes, let's proceed with the project.
You just go down the line and just say.
I'm okay with that, but it doesn't require a motion and a second and a vote.
How we feel about the CIP, how we feel about the CIP.
I think it's useful to council, if the five of us think we should proceed with the project as it's been presented to us, we should say that. And then they can make their decision.
And that will be documented and presented in conjunction with Public Works' feedback. So, beautiful Tom to my left.
Well, I guess I'll make a motion that we receive and file and we have reviewed CIP 619, and that the commission recommends that council proceed with CIP 619 as has been presented. And the commission will then take up use issues in the future as soon as and as sensibly as we can.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yes.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to 11C.
Thank you, Chair Lang. This item is fiscal year 2024-2025 capital improvement projects related to the purview of the Community Resources Department and the Commission. It's an annual status report, and it provides an opportunity for the Commission to provide feedback on these projects prior to the annual CIP study session. So the current fiscal year budget includes 41 CIPs, 9 of which pertain to the purview of the department and the commission. 2 of these, I'm sorry, it's not 9, it's 8 was the total. So 8 CIPs that pertain to the purview of the department and the commission. Two of these were completed, one being our Parks Master Plan, which was adopted in November of 2024, and second being the Greenbelt Pedestrian Trail. I just wanted to note minor landscaping does remain, but the trail is completed. And I'm sorry, next slide, Amari. And correction again, that is 8, not 9. It's supposed to be 8. Next slide. Okay, so the completed CIPs are on this slide, and next slide. Table 1 in your staff report and on this slide before you outlines the current CIPs related to the purview of the commission and the department. Several remain on hold per the updated CIP schedule that was adopted by City Council, but we do have status reports to share on several of these projects as well, so I will go ahead and give a brief status report on several of these. First being CIP 603, the South Park Slope Irrigation and Landscape Improvements. The anticipated start of construction for this project is April 2025. Next being the Kelly Court improvements, which we just discussed. The Clark Building renovation, CIP 689, we're targeting project completion at the end of April with construction close out through May to June. And those are the updates we wanted to provide on that list before you. Next slide. I'm sorry, next slide. Okay, so we have a merge of our two presentations, so we can close out the presentation because we've completed it. Staff will present any feedback the commission may have to City Council through an attached memo to the CIP study session staff report. And the commission may also just receive and file this item. Staff recommends the commission view the City Council CIP study session. It is scheduled for April 22nd. It would provide awareness of the entire CIP and immediate or future needs that may be discussed pertaining to the department and the commission and outside of the purview of the department and the commission. The session's going to provide discussions to assist staff in refining individual CIP scopes, identifying priorities, and determining the anticipated CIP sequencing based on staff capacity and available funding resources. Several of these needs are in development and may impact the timeline of the CIP sequencing based on staff capacity, and several of these needs are including items that pertain to the department and the commission. First being the replacement of a leaking community center natural glass line that's used for heating and other applications. Next being the replacement of the community center windows. The windows at the community center do cause a public safety concern and must be replaced. As the community center is a locally significant historic landmark, City Council approved the Community Development Director's certification that the window replacements do not require a certificate of appropriateness in October of 2024. So this has allowed staff to proceed with identifying suitable replacement windows and a budget and schedule for consideration in the CIP. And third being the implementation of recommendations that are in a pending security site assessment of the community center. The assessment's in its final draft, and it identifies security vulnerabilities, threats, and risks to ensure the safety of all those who utilize this community resource. And last being the implementation of recommendations in a pending skate park assessment. Staff is currently in review of the first draft of the assessment. The skate park was built in 1999. So an assessment is really needed to review the features of the park to ensure the enjoyment of its users. So these are not currently developed CIPs and will be further discussed during the CIP study session. Again, why staff's recommendation is so strong to view the study session to have a full understanding of the entire CIP and these immediate needs that have come to our attention. And this concludes my staff report.
Thank you very much. Commission, any questions of staff?
Yeah, CIP 111, the gateway sign. I looked at the sequencing chart that you gave us, and I couldn't understand. Are we near the end of that, or are we still at the beginning assessment of that?
And for which one?
the gateway and sign. It's CIP 111, which would be the marquee sign on the community center lawn that apparently the chamber has given the city $50,000 for already.
Director San Clemente is going to come up.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Maroney. So we did start the initial assessment. However, our design contract expired and we need to re-procure the design consultant. So that contract is looking at marquee sign in front of community center, gateway signage through the periphery of the city, as well as downtown wayfinding signage. We had done some initial preliminary evaluations in artistic work on some of the signage, but it's incomplete. We're currently in negotiations with the design consultant to bring them back on board. So there has been a delay due to procurement issues with that project. But that effort only has funding in the CIP for the preliminary evaluation. It doesn't have final design or construction implementation funding included in the CIP. The thought was to do some initial assessments, engage with the community on input for what to help further scope that project, and then further define what the cost would be to advance the final design and construction should it continue.
Right, and the chamber has given money to the city that's being held for the marquee sign, right? I read in the budget, I think it's $50,000. Well, anyway, that's what I read. But the reason I think this is within our purview or something that we are interested in is one of the challenges we face is how to reach out to residents with information about what we offer and what events we present if the resident isn't looking to get information. We have all sorts of social media, and that's fine, but if the person isn't on any of these social media sites, they're not seeing any of it, and I know plenty of people in town who have no idea what we're doing. And, I will tell them, I try to tell them, but, it's just me. The marquee sign would be a big step forward, because you could put this event, programming, you can't miss it. So that's why I ask questions about the marquee sign. On the Fort Lots of Fun, what exactly is wrong with the gate, and what are we doing with the retaining wall?
Tom, what number is that?
That is CIP 610.
Okay, thank you.
So on the northerly side of the park, the retaining wall is in very poor condition. We have been monitoring it, so we don't believe it's an urgent safety need, but it is a high priority to repair that retaining wall. If you go out and look out in the field, you'll see that there is a slight lean and cracking that's in there because it hasn't been repaired in a very long time. So it will need to be replaced at some point in the not too distant future. The other challenge is that we have a fairly old wooden gate that creates that kind of fort-like feel of the logs. It is in very poor condition, heavy termite damage. Our crews have done a heroic job trying to maintain that gate so it continues to open and does not fall apart, but it absolutely will need to be replaced to address the deferred maintenance concerns with it. And so that CIP, once again, is one of the many underfunded projects that we have in the CIP. It's programmed, but only with limited amount of design money. We don't have construction funds set aside for that project. And we also were not able to dedicate necessary staff resources to advance it this current fiscal year. So it was programmed partially, but not expected to advance in design effort until the upcoming fiscal year.
CIP 503, the city park lighting, that includes Clark, right?
That's correct. So what it included was conceptual design only of evaluating lighting levels at South Park, Valley Park, and Clark Field. We'd bring in a lighting designer that would evaluate photometrics, so the current lighting levels. There would be some community outreach process as well to further define concerns about lighting in these three parks, so that then the designer could make recommendations on what might need to be done and help us further flesh out a budget for final design and construction, neither of which are currently funded in the current CIP. So this is a very preliminary design effort to just evaluate what are the needs and help flesh out what the cost would be to move forward. Once again, that project was also one that was identified not to start, I believe, at least for 2 fiscal years out, due to staffing bandwidth and other priorities in the CIP.
But the assessment would include suggested placement of light poles at Clark, either add or move, that would be part of the assessment?
That's correct. So what we would do is we bring in a professional lighting designer, typically an licensed electrical engineer or civil engineer that would come in and look at all the lighting in those parks. They'd run current photometrics or how much light is spread at those locations and then help us determine where we have deficiencies versus current standards. But that would also be layered with public outreach process to determine where there might be concerns of darkly lit locations or other nuisance conditions in these facilities that even if we brought the current lighting up to standards might not address those concerns. And that was the overall intent of the scope of work for that project.
And I know it's not on the current list of projects, but I'd heard you state before that the retaining wall on the west end of Clark Field is at least a concern.
That is correct and is also a location that's on our watch list.
Okay. And the last one is CIP 605, the city facilities condition. Does that include lawn bowling, Kiwanis, and the Rotary?
So currently, as part of the civic facilities assessment, we're not focusing on those facilities. It's largely City Hall, Police Station, and the EOC, which have largely been the main focus of that effort, but it has not currently expanded into those other facilities. With that said, we know that there are needs in the lawn bowling facility. In order to put a roof on that building, we'll take a more detailed upgrade to that building. So that's definitely on our radar as a future need. I believe you mentioned one other facility that I might have missed.
Kiwanis and Rotary. You said they're not, apparently.
That's correct. And that's something that I'll let Director Nichols respond to.
I would say that those two are on our radar just as well, and that we have had discussions about a building assessment of those spaces as well as the lawn bowling club. And we'll continue to keep the commission up to date as we continue to have those discussions and are able to secure one.
Does the assessment of the lawn bowling roof require a CIP, or can that just be done in-house? Without whatever our CIP minimum is?
So there are a number of competing facilities needs. What the city will have to determine to do is how to repair that building. I will say right now, I don't believe that we can simply put a roof on that structure. There are other underlying issues with that building, and so it will take likely bringing in a licensed architect to look at the facility and help us further cost out what improvements really need to be done to that facility in order to put a new roof on it, and what else is required in the near term.
All right, thank you for answering my questions, Joe. Next.
Okay, so it looks like the lawn bowling is a bigger job than we thought initially several years ago. And won't be addressed for a little bit. So for our accessible Greenbelt pedestrian trail, are we looking at, I know it's pretty well along there and people are using it, but it still needs a little bit of sprucing up. Are we going to partner at all with the Southland? Is it the Southland Conservancy to put in more native species along the trail there?
So if I could, thank you, Chairperson Professor Main. So there is additional hydroseeding that needs to happen. So the project's substantially complete. It's open for full use. However, there's additional hydroseeding, which is just the grass seed that needs to be deployed. When we had the rains the last couple months, it washed away a lot of the hydroseed. It had not taken hold or rooted in the ground. And so we have to come back. We've been working to schedule with the contractor to come back to put additional grass in. And we have a lot of locations that will remain fenced until that becomes established. We have sent our landscape contractor in to cut back some of the overgrown brush in areas that are going to trample the grass that's working to be reestablished. There is also some additional grading work that we're going to be having that contractor do when they come back on the 11th Street ramp that connects the path between the 88 path and the Ardmore side, but two minor punch list items. So we're trying to let some of the grass take hold, but I will note that the project itself did greatly expand plantings along the pathway. We did updated plants at the northern end near the 9/11 Memorial. That is all new landscape, and we installed many dozens of plants at the southern end, new grass near 8th Street, and we planted more than a dozen trees, many of which were much larger than the typical small size that we do. So the project did enhance landscape. We do not have any plans to further expand the South Bay Parkland Conservancy locations. Currently, we have a number of limited locations that they have that are still, that they are helping us maintain. And it's a case-by-case basis if they come forward to request further locations, but we don't have any plans right now to expand that in the accessible location.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll, like a future conversation on what plans are for the green belt and where we're heading with that. And then so was that then approve the South Park slope and then the expansion of that project? So 603. Because it started off as on the South Park slope that had issues, and then now we're looking at more of South Park, right? We're looking
If you
at.
could clarify your question, please.
Yeah. I was just wondering if this expanded project, South Park 603, did council approve that?
So there's no expanded project right now. CIP 603 is to replace the irrigation and landscaping on the northerly part of the project. So this is north of the main field on the sloped hill, surrounding the restroom, surrounding the garden, community gardens, and the play areas. That is the entirety of the scope. The project was fully designed, advertised, and council awarded a construction contract at the February 25th meeting. And we're working with the contractor now on finalizing the construction, on getting the document signed, and working on pre-construction meeting and working on the mobilization date, which is likely sometime in mid-April.
Okay. Okay, and then, let's see, is it 503 for the city park lighting? Didn't we, not that long ago, redo the lighting at Clark Field? I thought that was something that we did. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that we put in new lights, brighter lights, and all of that.
I want to say within the last 10 years.
Was it within the last 10 years?
Since I've been here, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know how recently.
okay. Is that's included in that? Okay, and then I just wanted to ask again, so for this community center windows project, are we looking at something that will look historically correct when we replace the windows?
Right. So it's not,
I was just going to say, we're
Okay.
still really evaluating next steps in this. We've been able to receive this certificate that lets us now plan out the next steps in the budget and the type, and consider the types of windows. Right now, what needs to be replaced are the slatted windows throughout the building. That's the area that we're focusing on. So we would definitely not want to choose something that drastically changes the appearance, but there's not really a comparable paned window that would not pose the same safety concern. So it will certainly be a different type of a window, but hopefully not alter the appearance of the exterior of the building drastically.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Did you have anything to add?
I did, and if I could, so there's multiple types of windows on that building. So there's the louvered tilt windows, and then there's push-out windows. We did bring an item to City Council in fall of last year to take a look at only the louvered windows, and we did receive a historic exemption for just that one type of window. With that said, we would have to bring in a professional to help us work through what is a suitable window. As Director Nichols said, we're not going to put any window on there. It's going to have to meet certain criteria so that it has the right look and feel. But that means we also have to look at the historic requirements for the push-out windows, which were not addressed in late fall. And as part of that, when we do windows, there's not adequate ventilation in that building, and so we also have to look at ventilation requirements that may be triggered along with the windows. All to say, this isn't a project yet, but it is something that staff is likely to propose as an urgent, near-term item to City Council when we come to City CIP study session, because the windows do need to be addressed sooner than later, and everything else that may need to come along with it. So still being scoped, not a project yet, but that's a little bit more about what's to come.
Tracy?
First, I'd like to say that if you really take a look at that table one, the current CIPs that are related to our purview, it's impressive that we've completed and or almost complete and have started so many of them. So thank you both for that, I think, and to the commission as well for moving all those forward, which I think is really nice. I think in terms of priorities, yeah, gas leak, that doesn't sound good. I would probably work on that one towards the top of the list. I did have a question on the community building when you say it's a security risk, and I'm curious if you can elaborate on that.
I can give a few examples of what's in the draft right now. A way to have a better monitoring system over the entirety of the space, so video cameras, a way to communicate with our users in the case of an emergency shutdown, lockdown. Right now, staff would have to, go
Run.
to each location to communicate any emergency to any of our users. And so those are just two of the examples. Reviewing the access points right now, and also considering how our community members can access the building as well when we're reviewing those access points. Right now, we keep every single door locked in the facility, really, to be able to monitor who's coming in and out of the space. So there's really one entry point, but then there's constraints for users getting to that one entry point. So those things were considered as well.
Thank you. I guess if you're prioritizing items, I would say anything that has to do with the public safety and security and staff's safety and security would be high priority in my mind. So I would prioritize fixing the gas leak. It's obvious. The windows and the security. And, the 14th Street bathrooms have been on the list for a really long time. And I personally have a friend who asks me every time he sees me how they're going. And I'll just tell him he'll have to wait a little while longer. That's it from me for right now.
Barb?
A couple questions regarding the South Park slope irrigation improvement. So, drinking fountain? I'm wondering how far, this is pretty direct. This is all we have. So we have other issues at the park, and I'm curious to know, we're not going to be throwing in a new water fountain, or we don't have signage yet. We're working on fixing the park, but we have these other issues. So I just want to be sure that with all this money that there's no way to fix other things at the park, the old play equipment that's broken, those kind of things. I know that drinking fountain has been broken for probably at least 3 or 4 months, if not longer, and staff has probably spent a couple thousand hours trying to get it to work. So I'm just curious, as long as we're doing irrigation landscape, are we doing something as simple as a new water fountain? Do we throw that in under miscellaneous? I just redid a bathroom. There was a lot of miscellaneous.
So if I could, right now, the scope of work is final. It's already been advertised. We have a contractor mobilizing with the limited scope of work. There are no plans to adjust playground equipment or add drinking fountains in. I will say, as you noted, we spend countless hours dealing on calls with water fountains in parks, and it's largely because, I hate to say it, the users put sand into the fountains and we're pulling out sand. And so that is one major maintenance issue that we have, or other vandalism issues. So it's not always as simple as switching the fountain out. It's just what it endures in a
As far
park.
as I'm concerned, we will never put a drinking fountain that's anywhere near the children's play area. It's just,
put it near the bathrooms and they'll have to walk across the park. But no, I just was just because there are, we haven't put any signs, any new signs up in the park, and we're supposedly, we have e-bikes, and I mean, there are all these things that's not part of this, but I just want to be sure that that's not what do you call it when you add on to a project? They're called, yeah, there's a thing.
Change orders?
Change orders. Just because I'm at that park a lot, people ask, and I don't want to tell them anything that, oh yeah, no, don't worry, we're going to fix that, because we're going to be under construction, we're going to put, is that entire area going to be fenced off, or is it going to be fenced off in phases?
It's going to be phased. We actually came up with a phasing plan that would allow the contractor to work but maintain access to many of the play areas. I believe 2 or 3 of the play structures would remain open. I think the slide would likely have to be closed, but we're going to maintain access to some of the play structures, the community garden, and the restroom, and then they would fence off all the other areas and work. So most of the use would continue. There'll be some intermittent disruptions, but we're trying to maintain as much access as we can.
And approximately how long might it take?
Probably about, I'm just going to say about 3 months tonight. I don't have the final schedule from the contractor, but roughly about 3 months.
We might be starting in April, so we would technically be open this summer.
That's correct. Yeah, we're trying to get a firm date. Right now, we're looking at potential mid-April start, but it hasn't been confirmed yet.
Okay. And as Tracy said, yes, staff safety and security is of the utmost importance. And the 14th Street bathroom is a nightmare for anyone that uses it. Still looking for that self-cleaning bathroom. Putting it out there. But in order, safety and a new bathroom would be great.
All right. Joe, thank you for everything. And thank you to everybody who participated in the staff report. It is so thorough. There's so much amazing information. You used a term earlier called urgent near term. What was that? And I don't know if I'm using it out of context, but it captured my attention, and I'm getting to something.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was referring to exactly, but there are urgent things that we will have to address on a variety of different facilities that we have. I think as we're working on knocking out backlog on the CIP, we're seeing that we also have to sequence things to make sure that we're addressing safety needs where possible, and new safety needs are popping up as we go. For example, the community center gas line. That was an unexpected event that happened, but we rushed to bring that to mid-year, which was approved by City Council at the last council meeting, and we created a new CIP. We actually created 2 new CIPs, also addressing the electrical conditions at our community services building, which is Base 3 on Valley Park. So, as we work to knock out projects, we're adding them as the year goes on because of unplanned needs to address safety issues as they come up, but we're also working to identify the next round of safety things before they become issues so that we're in a more proactive stance about addressing these needs, but they will take time and funding.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So I would like to apply that term to the 14th Street bathrooms. They've gone untouched for I don't know how many years, and the reason I want to apply that term, because it is a safety need. I cordially invite anybody to go by those bathrooms after dark, and you will see how safe you feel. You will not feel safe there. Furthermore, it needs to be expedited, and like third time I've said this, I've been sitting up here for 10 years, and every year I talk about the 14th Street bathrooms. Now I'm going to bring it a little closer to home for everybody. If you look at, I can't read the colorful chart, it looks like you will not start evaluation until Q4 of 2028. That's just evaluation. So what I'm getting at is Los Angeles Olympics are going to be here by then. And the Strand is going to be used as a thoroughfare for tourists, athletes, everybody to come and visit. all kinds of amazing amenities up and down the coast, particularly with Hermosa Beach having a storytelling capacity to beach volleyball and surfing. People are going to want to come and see our Surfers Walk of Fame. I know that NBC or whoever the broadcast partner is, they're going to be doing reports and storytelling messaging throughout that. So if it's not me as a commissioner, it's going to be the beach house. It's going to be somebody else who's going to point to that and say, A, it's an eyesore, B, it's not safe, and C, the whole world is going to be looking at the 14th Street bathroom in Hermosa Beach going like, wow, they can't fix that. So if there's any way we can apply a safety need and expedite this to the top of the CIP list, because of the Olympics, because the amount of tourists that are coming through, because it's been untouched, because it is a hazard, because now that there is no more camping on the beach, it is going to be a haven for folks hiding there, because there's a lot of easy places for people to lay out of sight and use it as, you know, a space to get out of the element. So it has to be prioritized, and we can continue to identify, you know, the problems that the 14th Street bathrooms, you know, create for the community. But if we have to wait for evaluation for Q4 2028, man, I mean, that's a tough one for me to swallow. But that's my feedback. And dude, keep up the good work, and thank you for processing all the feedback from not only us, but the community, and what you guys do is appreciated, because Greenbelt looks great, and so does Clark Building, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm done. So with that said, we just need to make a motion.
Public comment, Mr. Mayor. Public comment.
Public comment. I always forget. Pardon me, public. Anybody in chambers would like to speak in regards to this agenda item?
I'm encouraged to see everybody's questions about the CIPs. I think this is the right time to ask those questions. I apologize if I came off a little gruff. Part of my frustration is I bid projects for a large general contractor as my job. And so of my 6 or so projects that I'm working on right now, 4 of them I'm on my second or third go around because clients don't get their stuff together, and then tomorrow I have to explain to a client why his 2-month delay is costing him hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's not going to be happy. So I take it all very personally. There are a couple of council members in particular who are like, oh, we can just waive the bids, it's not a big deal, and that's like a knife in my heart. So I really like to hear the questions now. If there are any questions, I think we need to look at the process overall. Council seems to be saying that they want us to review things and push them up. I think it needs to be their responsibility to request from us what we should be looking at. You know, some of them are obvious. You know, Clark Building, Kelly Courts, maybe those are obvious. But you know, when we're looking at roads or when we're looking at sewers, you know, does council want to look at that? Want us to look at that? Do they want to have input on that? I know that's not necessarily your guys' purview, but anyway, I agree. We need to fix the process. I think we probably have some disagreement as to. I think it's more of council should be pushing down, but at the same time, if there's information that you want to know or if we want to know, we also have the right to ask that, and we shouldn't be waiting. If we need some information, ask for it and get it. Waiting till the last, when projects are bidding, you know, these projects have been on lists forever, and if you had a question before it was bid, you probably had a question when it first showed up on the list. So please, please, please ask those questions early. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Do we have any virtual hands raised?
Chair, we do not have any virtual hands raised at this time.
Cool. So we'll close public comment, bring it back to commission for further discussion or a motion.
Yeah, and I tried to keep myself to questions. I didn't entirely do that, but I do want to make a couple of comments.
Absolutely.
You're right about 14th Street with the Olympics, because remember, we're trying to host practice sessions. You can't have the 14th Street bathroom and, you know, the Portugal volleyball team down there. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Clark, I think we have to be careful with Clark. There's a real drive in the community to do a bigger project on Clark, and I don't want to see us wasting money doing it piecemeal. Because if we do a lighting assessment and somebody says the poles have to go there or there, and then we expand the field, we're going to have to redo it. The retaining wall should be part of a larger effort. If we're going to get to the larger effort, and I think we will, I know we have money issues, I know we have timing issues, but of all the projects that we hear, there's a real appetite to improve Clark Field. So I'd just be careful on the sequencing of Clark. Tracy, are you volunteering to be the liaison for the first year? And then you can figure out what the liaison does and
Sure. Yeah, I'll
is
do
the
it.
rest of my commissioners cool with that?
You guys
She
good?
does that for the first year? All right.
Thank you, Tracy.
See what that
Yeah,
looks like.
that works for me.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else? No? All right, well, would anybody like to make a motion to receive and file the report?
Can make a motion to receive and file the report
Is there a second?
regarding the 2024-25 capital improvement projects.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yes. And that's it? That's all we need for this agenda item, correct? Okay, cool.
Motion carries 5-0.
Awesome, thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback. Joe, thank you for your time. Hope we didn't keep you out too late. Moving on to 11A.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item is the Live Hermosa Recreation and Enrichment Brochure Programming Review. We'll cue up our presentation. Great, thank you, Amari. Next slide. During the development of the 2024 Parks Master Plan, the Commission requested staff, following the adoption of the plan, provide an overview of the brochure's recreation and enrichment programming, how the brochure is advertised, and the programming recommendations that came from the 2024 Parks Master Plan. Next slide. In May of 1990, the city adopted the 1990 Parks Master Plan, and one of the goals identified through the community engagement process for that plan was for the department to develop a brochure outlining recreation programs and events. Currently, the department produces 2 brochures annually, one for the I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words here, trying to look at 2 presentations at once. One for the fall and winter season, and another for the spring and summer seasons. Each brochure provides details on the recreation and enrichment classes, camps, and leagues, excursions, and city-hosted events scheduled within its respective seasons. Next slide. A majority of the programming through the brochure is provided through the city's contract class program, which is an avenue for individuals and organizations to offer classes, camps, and leagues at the city's indoor and outdoor facilities. To provide information on the contract class programming offered through the brochure, staff did complete an overview of the 2024 spring and summer seasons, which is attachment 4 to your staff report, and the 2024 to 25 fall and winter seasons, which is attachment 5 to your staff report. Each overview provides the title of the activity, the day and times of the activity, the age range, the total sessions that were offered in the season, and total registrants and percentage of the total registrants who are Hermosa Beach residents. There's also detail on whether any of the activities within that season were sold out or were canceled. Next slide. Outside of the programming offered through the contract class program, the department provides in-house programming such as the Park After School program, Valley Park Summer Day Camp, the programming through the Hermosa 5-0 Senior Activity Center, and monthly excursions. Next slide. The brochure is advertised on the city's official website, in person at the Hermosa Beach Community Center, through the city's official e-newsletter, and on the city's social media accounts. We also provide announcements at the commission and city council meetings when each brochure's registration season is approaching. Next slide. On this slide before you are the top needs identified for recreation programming following the community outreach for the 2024 Parks Master Plan. And the department has planned action for several of these goals, which is also included on this slide here to highlight the planned activities in regards to the program goal pertaining to summer camps, as Valley Park Summer Day Camp has historically sold out with a wait list for many weeks over the past several years. The department is developing an action plan to expand its in-house summer day camp programming with an additional summer camp offering at South Park. Regarding additional youth programming, the department has recently formed a partnership with Alcove Beach Cities. It's an organization of the Beach Cities Health District, which provides activities and resources for ages 12 through 25, which is definitely an age range that we would like to offer more programming for through the Live Hermosa Recreation brochure. The partnership includes hosting quarterly events at South Park for this demographic. We've hosted 2 events at the South Park building this far, and the department continues to work on building on this partnership to explore additional recreation and enrichment programming opportunities for this age range. And then we have the recommendation for pickleball classes and leagues. And we did touch on this briefly in the item for the CIP, but just to make sure we're touching on it here as well. After receiving the formal direction on CIP 619 from council, the department would consider forming an action plan to develop a pickleball league managed in-house and offer pickleball classes through the contract class program. And of course, it should be noted that if direction is provided by City Council that would allow for us to reopen the 2 temporarily closed courts, staff would be able to utilize those reopened courts for the new programming without further impacting the available reservation times for the members of the pickleball program. And then if not, the development of such programming just needs to carefully consider the impact of the availability of reservation time for residents. Next is swimming lessons. The department is exploring the feasibility of a joint use agreement with surrounding agencies to allow resident access to pool and aquatic programming in a nearby city. And then regarding additional special events, the department, as the commission is very well aware of, continues to process new event requests annually through the special events permit program. 8 new events have been approved by the commission and city council since the start of the 2024 calendar year through 2025 as of the time of this report. In addition, the department produces several annual events and continues to host additional events as opportunities really arise. So some of our annual events are the Surfers Walk of Fame induction ceremony, July National Parks and Recreation Month, / California Parks and Recreation Society Parks Make Life Better Month community activations, Coastal Cleanup Day in partnership with Heal the Bay, our community movie nights. One features the film Carrie, which was filmed at the community center, and the other is a holiday-themed movie in partnership with the police department, the Veterans Day commemoration and wreath-laying ceremony, the Sand Snowman contest, and then the additional events as of 2024. We hosted a Wade in the Water film screening, which allowed for a panel discussion in partnership with the city manager's office and police department. We hosted the skate park 25-year anniversary celebration, and we brought back the Hermosa Beach concert series, which will continue annually on the 2 Sundays following Labor Day weekend. And this concludes my staff report. We're available for any questions you may have.
Lisa, thank you very much. Any of my fellow commissioners have questions of Lisa?
two, just
All
two.
right, thank you, Tom.
Swim lessons, where are we exactly and what's the holdup?
I got a new contact to work with the Redondo Beach Unified School District. My initial contact wasn't necessarily the appropriate person to talk about the usage of the swimming pool there. So we are in the process of scheduling a meeting so that's been the one agency I've reached out to at this point. And then there's been little preliminary discussions, but I'm most confident to share I have a contact now for Redondo to move forward with.
And why do we think there was such a fall off in the youth program from 60 to 10? We
From
went we went from tacos to pizza on the Alcove Beach City
That's
program.
a great question, and I'm so glad you asked that because I meant to put that in my verbal. Honestly, I think the weather had a lot to do with it. The timing, really. The weather wasn't great. I believe it was either raining earlier in the day or there was anticipated rain. So I think that had a huge impact on the numbers.
That's all the questions I have.
Following up on that, in terms of drop-off, I'm looking at the attachment, the overview of the 2024 to 25 fall and winter recreation brochures, contract classes. And I mean, there's some great stuff in here. We have great offerings, but I'm noticing some of these classes there, had to be, some of the sessions had to be canceled, and it looks like in some cases all of the sessions had to be canceled. And I'm wondering if that's kind of a typical pattern. Are we getting a drop-off in sign-ups for our contract classes? And then, does any of this have to do because it was fall, winter with conflicts for people being busy during the holidays?
We certainly are experiencing a drop-off from year to year. If anything, we're increasing enrollment. Some of the classes that you'll see more commonly are canceled are because that organization is offering so many different sessions, and for such small age ranges, like maybe it's 4 to 5 and then they have a 5 to 6. So oftentimes your audience is spread out amongst all these classes, and we have to cancel some of them and merge them so that we get enough numbers to make the class really worthwhile for the instructor. So that's something we really try to work with our contract class instructors on when we're working on the brochure schedule, is trying to get them to really just get ahead of that in the schedule that they're putting in our brochure so that we're not trying to do these last minute cancellations and mergers.
Okay, yeah, so combining, so they're maybe expanding the ages a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense, thanks.
Tracy?
To hedge your bets regarding the pool, are you talking to MiraCosta as well?
I haven't begun conversations yet, but I will. It's definitely on my list to reach out to as many agencies as possible.
Not that I'm biased or anything.
The scuttlebutt at the park is that you really got to get on your phone to sign up for contract classes in the summertime. Like that's a deal. You guys have done a great job with that. Are there some new classes that we've tried something that the kids want that we don't know about?
We are always offering new classes. When we are approached by an organization, we really try to look at what our current offerings are and what those offerings are for each, age range they're really making their classes available for, would like to make their classes available for, so that we're not putting in our brochure programming that's directly competing with itself. So we really want to be able to have the largest amount, array of really programming. So we're always adding new classes, and sometimes they're successful and sometimes they're not. And sometimes the instructors aren't really willing to try for more than one season. Sometimes instructors will stay and kind of see how it goes, and it might increase in popularity from season to season. It's not, we just really try to work with the instructor to get their program as successful as possible.
if you want to go on, I had a question and I wrote it down, but I don't know where I put it. So if you want to, I did have something, I just don't know where it went.
No, no questions other than just compliments to everybody involved in this. Thank you. Back to you, Barb.
Yeah, I had something, but it's gone. So, but I see the classes at the park, and I see them at the community center, and I think we offer an amazing gift to the residents, and thank you all for everything that you do. That's it.
Okay, open it up to public comment.
Is there anyone in the chambers wishing to speak on this item? And Chair, we have no virtual hands raised.
Okay, and bring it back to commission for further discussion or to make a motion to receive and file.
I will defer to, somebody else want to go first? Okay, I do have 3 specific suggestions. And some of them are, we could just decide to do internally. If you like the idea, some would have to be more formal. I think we should change our instructor policy to say that one of the things they're going to be evaluated on is their ability to have classes that have at least 50% Hermosa residents. Because ultimately, we should be delivering these programs to our residents. And if we tell the contractors, we're going to evaluate you on whether or not you deliver that to us. And if you don't, we may not renew you for the next year. They may reach out on email list or in other ways to try to get to the 50% threshold, because there are over half of these classes are much less than 50% Hermosa residents. So I think that could be done internally, depending on whether other people think or not. The other thing I think could be done internally is we could develop a program to recognize an exceptional contract program every year and give them recognition. You did a really extraordinary job. We'd have to develop some nomination process. Come here and just, commend them for good work. We don't need to do that for our events or for the stuff we put on, but it would be neat to do for these other programs. That, again, might give them a little boost, might get some more, interest generated in their programs. The last suggestion is much more formal. Would take an agenda item, and I'm going to share the idea, and then I'll send you an email, and you can tell me whether or not it falls within the purview of an agenda item, and then we can do it somewhere down the road. If 3 people want to do it, want to talk about it. Manhattan, Redondo, and Torrance all have some version of either a youth council or a student representative on the Parks and Rec Commission. I think reaching out to the kids in school might be a source of programming. They may say, hey, this is what we would like to do, and empowering them to do that would probably motivate them to come up with some ideas that, we're not necessarily going to come up with. Does Hermosa 5.0 have an internal board? They have great programming. How do they get that programming?
We do have a board. We meet monthly. It's called the Advisory Group Meeting for the Hermosa 5.0, and it's consisting of really a representative from each one of the classes or programs that we offer to come to, and we allow them to provide input on new programming that we may be, or new requests we may have from new instructors to offer programming. We really look to them to review that.
Well, that could be a role a teen commission could serve. And the last thought I will give you on swim lessons, I'm not a parent, but when I was a youngster, I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor and all that. There's a small window of time where swim instruction is valuable to a kid. If you're really going to learn to swim, it's only a couple of year little window there. And that's why I would encourage the city. I would encourage you to really press onto this, so maybe we can get something set up for, at the end of this year, so we're not losing another year of kids that wouldn't be interested in doing it anymore or learn to swim some other way. Anyway, so that's my comments. Other than that, this is As I told you when I first came in here, this whole agenda is extraordinary work, but this is really very nice, very useful. It would be great to see this maybe every other year, just traditionally it comes to us every other year or something.
Well, I really like we discussed this before about the student council, and I do think that we have a lot to learn, as well as the kids have a lot to learn about how the city runs, and that they do have a voice. So I'm very interested in that.
I agree with that, and I almost think that we would have to have two, one who represents each of the public high schools that our Hermosa residents can choose. Because those other cities, their liaison, like in Manhattan Beach, is a MiraCosta student, and I'm assuming the same for Redondo, although I don't know. So that's where I would go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. So looking through the list of classes, we have some great things offered, but we don't have the enrollment that we should see in some of these. So there may be some ideas that will resonate with the youth that we're not thinking about, and I think it's great on many levels. Also to get them involved early in civics and give them a voice. So great idea.
Cool. Anything else? So feedback noted. Anybody would like to make a motion to receive and file?
I'll make a motion that we receive and file the report on the programming provided through the biannual Live Hermosa Recreation and Enrichment Brochure.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yes.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 11D, consideration of 2025 special event fee waiver grant request.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Austin DeVries, Special Events and Filming Coordinator. On behalf of staff, recommends the Park, Recreation, and Community Resources Advisory Commission consider approval of the fee waiver grant request for SoCal Beach Foundation events on Sunday, May 4th and Saturday, September 27th, 2025, in the total amount of $288 as proposed in the staff report. Next slide, please. At its January 14th, 2025 meeting, City Council designated a maximum of $5,000 in fee waiver grants for the 2025 calendar year. As of today's report, no fee waiver grants have been allocated to any 2025 special events. Next slide. SoCal Beach Foundation events on Sunday, May 4th and Saturday, September 27th are fundraiser volleyball tournaments for all ages. The event producer has completed the fee waiver grant application, and from staff review, the application meets the eligibility requirements. Next slide, please. Eligibility requirements include the event must be a returning event to the city, an organization that is not delinquent on city permits or fees. The organization or event can demonstrate a community benefit, a positive economic impact as a result of the event, and a financial need or other economic justification. The total amount requested would be applied to a portion of the nonprofit Category 1 event indirect fees. Next slide, please. The current fee waiver grant balance is $5,000. Should the commission approve the fee waiver grant request of $288, the remaining fee waiver grant balance would be $4,712. To note, the event producer was recommended to be in attendance today to answer any questions you may have regarding the fee waiver grant request, and staff are also available to answer any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from commission? No. Is the event producer here? Join us, my friend. Tell us about your event.
My name is David Brandon. Thank you for consideration this evening. Everything said today, I'll be short and respectful of your time. I applied because my nonprofit goal is to be in line with the city's goals and aspirations. My fee waiver is only for $288. I run beach volleyball events to expand the sport and improve the community. I hope the city can appreciate that. Thank you for all that you guys do. That's all.
Any questions from commission to the event producer or for the event producer?
So have things changed? I thought you were a nonprofit. You were working with some of the schools to get the kids to play?
Correct, yes.
Okay, that wasn't mentioned. That's why I'm asking. When you were, your speech right now.
Oh, sorry, just trying to keep it short.
Didn't know of everything. Well, so how's that going?
It's tough, to be honest. Our tournaments are not during peak season, which is summer. So a lot of the kids are in school or playing on club teams. So it's hard to get them to come down to the beach to be able to play in our tournaments. We just had one this past weekend, which I felt was very successful, roughly 44 teams. We only had one 14U team that played. It did fairly well, but it is harder and more difficult to get kids to come to the beach outside of peak season. Unfortunately, we didn't get dates during the summer, though.
Okay. That's about it right now.
Tom?
Sure. So just to reconfirm, so the players that you're involving in your tournaments that you're reaching out to, they're in more non-traditional, underserved communities, and you're bringing them down to the beach to participate and play, correct?
Yes, we waived their entry fee.
Okay, and there's no fee to participate, or the minimal fee?
For the tournament for
the participants?
For the local individuals, there's a tournament fee of $160 and $250 for the advanced divisions.
Okay, so, okay. And it is nonprofit?
Correct.
Tracy, any questions? Or Tom? Pardon me?
I don't have any questions.
So in the last year, the money that you took in through fee charges, what can you tell us where that money went? I mean, you're a nonprofit. We don't give fee waivers in general to just volleyball tournaments. We have been giving you a fee waiver, based on your representation that you're something different. I think at one time you were going to set up some volleyball courts, if I remember correctly. But I'm just trying to get a feel for, you collect this money, what do you do with it, and that you're doing something positive with it so we can say, okay, you're different than AAU, you're putting money back into the community. Specifics, what are you doing?
So our nonprofit does rebuild volleyball courts and have advancements, but specifically for this waiver, we're talking about bringing kids to the beach and coaching, providing free coaching and lessons. We've done smaller things with 3 or 4 kids, but we want to do large-scale things that we're able to work with other city official, like Better at Beach is now like an official thing by, approved event by the city, so we're working now with them to bring kids and pay for their coaching.
Can you tell us how much you've spent on that in the last year?
So we pay the fee for each kid. It's roughly $120 for a 6-week class. I don't have the financials right in front of me.
All right, well, that's something. So how many kids did you pay that toward? How many kids did you cover for
About 5 or 6 kids.
And you had a couple events this year that you canceled, I think, was it?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
You have a couple events this year at Hermosa you canceled. Didn't you have something in January?
No.
No? All right.
We have 5 events total this year.
All right, so you've had everything that you've asked us to approve went forward.
No. We had 3 events within the last month and a half, and then we have one more event May 4th and one event at the end of the year, which is September 27th.
I don't have any more questions.
And it's probably in here, so forgive me, but for the events that you've had, how many participants have you had at each event?
The last event we just had this weekend, we had 44 teams. So it's roughly 180 players in Hermosa, north of here.
Did you sponsor any of them?
Sorry, what was the question?
Did you sponsor any of those players?
One team, yes, 4 individual players. There were 14U from Hawthorne. Sorry, 14U's for under 14.
I know.
Okay.
How are you reaching out to these kids? Is this a website? Is it how? It seems if people are going to get into a tournament for free, that you'd be able to find a few more kids. Where are you reaching out?
I just reach out to their coaches at different schools. I reach out to them. I've had some individuals reach out to me, but it's just kind of hit and miss, to be honest. Usually the timing doesn't work. Last year, we had a lot of kids play in our tournaments, but we also had peak June 1st and June 9th, I think were the dates. So we had a lot more kids that last year. I think we will struggle a little bit more this year because our dates are not during summer, and that's when the kids aren't in club season or don't have other things happening.
Okay.
You say you do free coaching and lessons, correct?
Correct.
These coaches, do you pay them or do they volunteer their time?
We pay other facilities. I volunteer my time, but I can coach as well, but I pay other facilities through the nonprofit.
So you pay other facilities for use of the court?
Coaching.
Coaching, okay. Right. And what do they charge an hour?
$120 for a 6-week session.
Okay. So you waited here for 3 hours, so that's $96 an hour you waited. I'm impressed. Just trying to figure out the math here.
Yes. I do realize that we're only asking for $288, but I think my nonprofit goals are to get in line with the city and work with the city to expand beach volleyball and make it more just enjoyable for the community. And so these events that I do run are just, for the community. I profit $0, and I think it's just fun at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. No, I get it. I mean, but you got to bear with us while we ask these questions.
Oh, absolutely.
We do with everybody. Do you work with any other entities like AAU, or has your organization offered to volunteer any support towards the Hermosa Open or anything like that to stay in line with your mission statement of growing beach volleyball like you just stated?
I volunteer for Hermosa Beach Open.
Okay.
Me personally.
Yeah.
But my nonprofit hasn't donated to Hermosa Beach Open.
Any CBVA or anything else?
I've also reached out to Vibe, but they don't have a beach program for coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Vibe is El Segundo, but it's difficult, to be honest. And, I'm trying my best. I also have a full-time job, so it's very difficult to find the right resources, which is why I go out there and volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not really, paid for, but it's just bringing kids to the beach so they can enjoy a nice beach day. We do profit a little bit from these tournaments, and not great. I can tell you exact numbers, which I will be able to provide for the next meeting because it's required. But with that money, our plan is to fix volleyball courts and bring kids to the beach.
Okay, cool. Any more questions? No. Okay. Thank you. Is it time for a public comment? Yeah. Anybody interested in commenting on the agenda item or online?
There's no virtual hands raised.
All right. Public comment is closed. Back to commission for discussion or motion. Thoughts, you guys?
I think what you're doing is commendable. And I would give you a waiver for sitting through a 3.5-hour meeting. Next year when you come tell us this is the amount of money we took in entrance fees. The these are the kids we sponsored at camp. You know, give us something to grab onto so we can say this is really different, all right? Otherwise, thanks.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate what you're doing as well. But for me, I would like to see a little bit more data on this, more kind of a track record on what kids, I know you indicated that you said you're talking about bringing kids to the beach, but I'd like to know that you're actually have done it or doing it, and how many kids, you know, maybe more demographics, you know, a little bit more. And I know you're not asking for much, but I think, Principal, I think you need to come back next year and, you know, maybe we could look at a more substantial waiver, but I'd like to see more kind of data and proof and see what's going on here. You know, it's just a little, it's a little too vague for me, unfortunately, and so I am wrestling with that because I really, like you, I really like what you're doing, but I think that we have to be careful about how we use these fee waiver grant requests and make them really count, and I just would like a little bit more background and data for it.
That advice that you're being given right now will actually help keep the fee waiver program going. So it'll give you access to it potentially moving forward if there's more detailed information.
I'll make a motion to approve fee waiver of $288 to SoCal Beach Foundation for its events on May 4th and September 27th of 2025.
I'll second it.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yeah.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries.
Okay. Cool. We are moving on to to 11E, review of city park hours.
All right, I get the main event time slot today.
Only the best comes
Yeah.
best.
Good evening, Chair Lang, Commissioners, Mr. City Attorney, Director Nichols, Brian Sousa, Senior Recreation Supervisor on behalf of staff, recommends the Park, Recreation, and Community Resources Advisory Commission receive and file staff's review of the city park hours. Next slide, please. At its November 4th, 2024 meeting, Commissioner Edelman, supported by Commissioner Horowitz and Maroney, proposed a future agenda item for staff to review the city park hours and return with this for review for a future agenda item. The city park's hours are currently scheduled at 5 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Next slide. To begin review, staff completed the best practice research of surrounding city park hours for comparison. Identify in Table 1 of your staff report is displayed on the present slide. It lists the 4 cities researched, the park hours of operations of those cities, and additional exceptions to park hours for designated neighborhoods and parks and parkettes. Next slide, please. Research displayed all 4 comparable cities' general hours for park closures are 10 p.m., and with various exceptions made as listed in Table 1. Following the best practice research, staff developed and formed an internal working group to review the best practice research and discuss potential modifications to the city park hours. The group consisted of team members from the city manager's office, the police department, the public works department, and the community resources department. Next slide, please. On January 29, 2025, the internal staff working group met and reviewed the findings and operational functions that aligned with park hours, such as the programming schedule, the general cleaning and maintenance schedules, and locking the facilities daily and nightly.
On February 26th of 2025, the internal working group met and reviewed the police department's call log on matters pertaining to park violations and disturbances within a most recent 6-month period, which ran from August of 2024 to February of 2025. The information displayed, most calls were received during normal hours of operation, mostly during the hours of 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. It was determined that the call volume pertaining to public safety and park-related matters would likely not decrease due to the potential change of park hours. Next slide, please. The internal staff working group determined the necessary resources to consider modification to the park hours, including the administrative time, the labor costs, and material costs for updating the park signage, adjusting the maintenance and janitorial contracts, the personnel time to update the Hermosa Beach Municipal Code, modifications and possibility of the Coastal Commission's review and approval would be significant and impact other scheduled planned work and projects. Therefore, in conclusion, staff would not recommend modifications to the city park hours. As always, staff is available today to answer any questions the commission may have. This ends my verbal staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Does the commission have any questions of staff?
I do. Thanks, Brian. My questions really are to how would it impact personnel time? The city can make their own sign, so I'm not sure where that would fall. And I guess it really goes back to some of my concerns about the police report saying that there were no, that the most calls were between 12 and 5. But if you only went back 6 months, you didn't include summer. So that would get us to September when the kids are in school. So typically, I would imagine if the kids are in school, they're home a little earlier. The city has a curfew of 10 p.m., and if the parks are open until 10:30, they're already past curfew. So there's already an issue there. If, for example, the parks were closed at 9:30, it would give anybody under 18 time to get home so that they aren't in violation of their curfew. So I struggle with how it will impact the city and staff and personnel, and taking into consideration some of the things that, our expression in our family is nothing good happens after midnight, but when you're 18 and under, I think maybe it's nothing good happens after 10. It's dark. What do you do? What's the purpose of being in the parks? If you're an adult, you can walk and getting punchy.
Yeah, definitely.
Stop talking right
that was
now
like
for a
3
minute.
questions, so I'll try to go in order as they were asked. Looking at staff resources and staff time dedicated to a potential modification, that will involve staff, as you mentioned, creating and making the signs and placing the signs all throughout the parks. That all takes staff hours that are otherwise unplanned currently in their staff workload and projects. Additionally, this would require code amendment changes that would have to go to City Council, which requires staff administrative time to formulate those staff reports and those requests to bring in front of council as well. If you, based on police department's recommendations too, the police department shared that since the city park hours are through 10:30, it actually gives them additional time to enforce such codes, as mentioned in the curfew restrictions of the municipal code, and allowing their time to clear the park of minors. Regardless if the park hours were 10:30 or 10 o'clock or 9:30, the curfew ordinance still applies at 10 o'clock. But that was based on the recommendation from PD and based on the call volumes that they've received from that 10 o'clock and 10:30 time frame. And did I touch point on your third question?
I think that was regarding the 6 months.
The 6
Yeah,
months.
the 6 months. Yes, that was based on the police department's recommendation
of looking at the data. That was the report that they provided to the staff working group. We based their recommendations on public safeties and that being an evaluator on itself. Staff certainly has the ability to go back and ask for a longer report or a more thorough report if we found a benefit in doing such. But at the time of this staff working group, we felt it was enough basis to go off of to develop a comprehensive evaluation internally and give our recommendation.
I certainly don't want to blame any park problems after hours on our 18 and under population. Do we know how many people use the parks between 9:30 and 10:30?
We
We
don't
don't.
have
That
that
would-
information.
That would require a different kind of
study?
monitoring system.
Because I wonder how many people would it impact,
Yeah.
staff and city aside, but our residents, how many people would it impact if the hours were adjusted?
Yeah, as Director Nichols mentioned, that's an extensive evaluation that would have to be solely based on observational purposes. We currently don't have the staff resources. I mean, our staff are only scheduled till 10:15 for most nights, so that would take a lot of staff resources in itself to probably compile
realize
that
that.
information.
Yeah,
But
I realize
we're
that
locking
because-
facilities too from 9 to 10.
Yeah.
So I realize it's not really an issue if somebody's walking through a park and they've got their dog on a leash and they're, it's 10 o'clock or 10:30. That's not the issues that are concerning us.
Right.
If I can speak for my commissioners, it's the problems, it's the calls, it's the fires, it's the, it's sort of the bad element that we're trying to find a way to curtail.
Absolutely, and based on the report that was presented to us and the recommendation from the police department, there is no evidence currently of an increase of that behavior between the hours of 10 and 10:30, and if we modified the hours to 10 o'clock, would mitigate any of that behavior. I mean, we could, at the end of the day, we could do any hours. If people want to go to the park after hours, they're probably going to go after hours. But our police department is very responsive to resident calls, and, they act fairly quickly from what we've received feedback from the community. If a complaint is made or a concern called from a resident, their action and response is pretty quick.
Okay, thank you.
I just don't agree. And maybe it's because I do live near a park. But the phone calls that I get and the talk that we had with the police, not last summer, the summer before, the problems start when school's out and the kids are running free. And the look on the police officer's face when he said, if we don't see it, we can't do anything about it, and the park is open until 10:30. And I'm looking at other parks, and I just, Sand Dune Park is a lot like South Park, and it's very popular. They have better lighting there than we do. The lighting in our parks are horrible, and the kids can hide. And when the police see them, all they can do is they can't do anything because it's 9:30. 9 o'clock does seem early to close a park, but there were so many problems last year at Valley Park, and not that there won't be any problems, but my understanding is that we need to give the police tools. I know that the chief was out of town, and he was going to get together and talk to you. I don't know if he did, but I'm just really disappointed, and I know that it would be an inconvenience, but I know there were a few letters that came in from residents, but yeah, I think we have an opportunity when we're redoing the parks and we're redoing signs, we're coming up with new rules. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen staff support this. Okay.
No questions of Brian anymore, or no?
Actually, I think the Coastal Commission was mentioned in the list. Would the Coastal Commission really be involved if we shave off an hour?
They might be.
They might
If the
be,
park's
but do
within
we
the
know?
coastal zone. So
Right.
Okay.
it's very likely that they, sorry, I had something to add, City Attorney. It's very likely. We'd have to address the Coastal Commission to determine the review process, but I would very much doubt that they didn't have to have a level of review for any change of park hours in the coastal zone.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be good to know for sure. Yeah, thank you.
So I have a
Yeah.
question. I see this having the biggest impact on anybody who is hosting a campfire in Valley Park. Are there different hours that apply to the use of that campfire pit, or does that go to the duration of the park hours?
It goes to our reservation.
Okay, and do
times.
reservations end at park hours, or do they have to have some sort of early stop to put out the fire, et cetera? Because this is really the only activity that I see going on in a park that, you know, the city has any sort of like jurisdiction over are the campfire reservations.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, it shouldn't exceed our staff hours, and our
Right.
staff it needs to be done by 10,
So
so
the
that
fire
we can
needs to be
ensure,
out, cleaned up, out by 10.
ensure that there's no embers burning.
Okay.
Correct. Reservation hours is based on operational hours, which is what our staff is allocated for, and that's 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Public comment? Anybody in chambers?
David Grayson, Public Works Commission. I thought I'd stick around in the spirit of being a liaison for tonight. I'm hearing this item, I have some thoughts, but I think part of being a liaison is knowing when to weigh in and when perhaps just to defer to the expertise of those on the dais who actually have the vote. Half hour doesn't seem like a lot of change. If that's where you're going relative to the impacts, I'll opine that much. But for the most part, you're the guys. It's yours.
Thank you. Anybody virtually chiming in?
We do not have any virtual
No?
hands raised.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back to commission for discussion or a motion.
Well, for me, I would have wanted to close the park at 9. The park's at 9 o'clock. That's where I am with that.
It's interesting to me that our parks close at 10:30, and we have so many like little small parks in our neighborhoods, and unless people aren't reading our agenda, nobody's really we've had a couple, I think one email, and I happen to know she lives near one of the parks, but nobody's complained about their small parks near them, and I noticed that on the list. Like, for example, Manhattan Beach, some of the small residential parks close a lot earlier than their bigger municipal parks. But all our parks close at the same time?
Yes, and we certainly saw that in the best practice research, and we did talk about that as an internal staff working group. There is also a benefit to having a standard, and since we haven't received a lot of feedback that there's a desire to change the hours for the parkettes, there's a benefit to knowing Hermosa Beach parks are this hours, because we were looking at the best practice research, and it's so hard to follow if you
All of them.
like memorize all the different times for the parks.
Yeah, it still intrigues me that curfew is earlier than the parks close. But again, you have to weigh that youth aren't the only ones who use our parks. So I could probably go either way on this.
for me, we just don't have the data to do this. What I would suggest is bring it back in October, and then you would have the summer data, and we'll be more attuned to it. So, maybe I'll do a late night walk through the park. Barbara can take notes, and we'll have more data. Right now, there isn't any justification. There's no justification for it from a public view at this point.
Barbie should video instead of taking notes. Lauren, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we do need to look at it over a longer period of time. And, I have concerns if we open this up to the Coastal Commission to shave off half an hour. And I'd like to understand more of a pattern for complaints and everything else, because I do find it hard to believe that with some of the activity over the last year or so that we haven't gotten many more complaints at night from people hanging out that maybe should be home, but we don't have that data either. So I think for now we need to receive and file and then revisit.
Yeah, I like Tom's idea about revisiting it later after we have more data. If the police department doesn't have an issue with it, I don't. I was anticipating something from the police department because it would expand their radius of having to monitor, because the later in the evening, they tend to gravitate towards downtown Hermosa. So I thought we would hear something from PD in regards to that, so they could pool their resources in more of a zone that requires more management. And if that wasn't the case, I don't have an issue with it, but I have no problem to revisit this with more data. Motion, anybody? Okay.
Receive and file the report, but that we direct staff to bring this issue back to us next fall. And prior to it coming back to us, they asked for the police to redo the numbers so that it covers all of the summer of 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Voting is now open. Chair Lang?
Yes?
I closed my computer. Yes.
Voting is now closed. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Okay. Any future agenda items from the commission to staff? No? Okay. No public comment? Okay. Meeting is done. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. See you next month.
Can I address you quickly and informally?